Mélène Chartier, I'm the Director of Urban Planning and Design at C40, and I will be the first Master of Ceremony of these wonderful events that we are organizing with the Biennale of Venice, of course, but also our partners, urban partners, the city of Oslo, and the Pavillon de l'Arsenal. At a time when the new urban model are needed to tackle climate change, discussion between European cities are very important. Something is happening in the world, and I strongly believe that it's time for Europe in some way, and that our cities can collectively shape a vision of urban living that is sustainable, inclusive, and thriving for the residents. Today, we have the immense honors of having 14 city officials from major European cities who will be sharing today with you their experience, their challenge, their success. So hopefully at the end of this session, we will know what is the dynamic and the new things, innovations that are happening right now in our city to tackle climate change, housing crisis, and the modern challenge that all of cities are facing right now. We have a very packed agenda, but also, so that's me. But I really believe that we are touching on all of the key topics that cities are facing and challenging with today. We will start, of course, with a welcoming remark from the Deputy Mayor of Venice. We'll then have a discussion on the importance of master plan land use policy to mainstream climate action and implement climate action on the ground. Then we will scale down the discussion to discuss about how cities are transforming their neighborhoods, their blocks, their street, their square for creating a more livable and sustainable urban environment. Then we will discuss an important challenge of how we could make the most of the existing asset, transform, reconvert empty space and underused building in our cities. Then we will discuss about how the C40 Reinventing Cities program has shaped urban regeneration in Italy. We will then go a very important discussion on how we make the number work. I think the vision of a sustainable, inclusive city is very important, but how city can partner with the private sector to accelerate and to finance this important transformation. And we will finish with a very important discussion on how cities can meet the growing housing demand without dropping their important sustainability goals and objectives. So, and we will, of course, end the session with a concluding remark from Carlo Ratti, who's the curator of the Biennale. So it's a long and packed agenda, but I really believe it's going to be an inspiring one. A very technical note, some of the speech will be in Italian. We are in Venice, and there is a few QR codes in the room. We can show you them. If you take the QR code, you will have the translation direct on your phone. So please don't hesitate to use it. And without further ado, I'm very happy to welcome on stage Deputy Mayor of Venice, Massimiliano De Martini, who will welcome us in the Serenissime, beautiful city, but also give us a snapshot of the climate change challenge that cities like Venice are facing and how they overcome it.
Confido nella tecnologia, quindi mi dicono che il mio intervento sarà tradotto per tutti. Intanto vi do il benvenuto, ringrazio C40 per aver scelto la città di Venezia ad essere qui presente, soprattutto in questa sala che solo poche settimane fa ha inaugurato la Biennale, e penso che oggi interverrà anche il curatore Carlo Ratti, una Biennale interessantissima perché fa capire anche quanto la scienza, la ricerca e l'intelligenza possono essere d'aiuto oggi, in momenti cruciali dove le decisioni devono essere prese anche in tempi veloci, ma trovando una precisione importante. Ho solo pochi minuti, quindi dovrò in pillole dire qualcosa, cosa fa la città di fronte a questi cambiamenti climatici e confermare la sua capacità resiliente di sapersi adattare ai tempi. Parlo subito del Mose. l'opera idraulica, di ingegneria idraulica più grande al mondo, una difesa dal mare, barriere che si sollevano dal fondale del mare per fermare le maree. È un progetto che è stato in gestazione per tanti anni e purtroppo dopo l'acqua grande di novembre 2019 si è deciso comunque, anche se i collaudi amministrativi non sono stati ultimati, comunque di utilizzare queste barriere anche in stress test e quindi simulando proprio in accadimenti veri di previsione di acqua grande per vedere se effettivamente funziona. Da ottobre 2020 ad oggi il MOSE è entrato in funzione circa 103 volte, quindi 103 acque grandi. Voi sapete bene che le maree durante la giornata sono due, bassa e alta marea, poi c'è l'acqua alta, che è quella sopra la media, e poi c'è l'acqua grande, che è l'evento estremo che fino a novembre 2019 ha creato danni, ma soprattutto non rende vivibile la città. A ottobre 2020, la prima volta che è entrato in funzione, suonavano quasi le campane, perché per la prima volta nella storia della città, con un'acqua grande, la città era asciutta. Cosa banale, forse è di poco conto per i più, però i cittadini a Venezia in casa hanno sempre un paio di stivali. Da quell'ottobre 2020 gli stivali non servono più. È un accessorio in più che non serve. Quindi questo vuol dire cosa? Che si possono recuperare anche i locali a piano terra, quando in quelle zone la quota rispetto al mare è inferiore a 1,10 m, che erano soggette spesso ad allagamenti. E anche su questo la città si sta interrogando, non da molto ma da poco, come può riutilizzare anche i piani terra, fino a quando 4 anni fa erano luoghi da abbandonare. Il MOSE, ve l'ho detto, per dimensioni è un'opera ciclopica, però pensate, un'opera ciclopica è stata costruita e pensate che Venezia ha un'opera ciclopica, però non ha un impianto fognario cittadino. Quindi la fognatura in città è un'opera ancora più grande della realizzazione del MOSE. E come funziona la città da questo punto di vista? Abbiamo creato degli incentivi, soprattutto con il regolamento edilizio, per far sì che ogni edificio si adegui con le proprie fosse settiche, che sono tenute, compartimentate e periodicamente svuotate. Da 2 anni abbiamo fatto una variante urbanistica proprio in centro storico, dove per la prima volta creiamo una prima condotta di fognatura che parte da Sant'Elena, la zona, per capirci, dell'Arsenale, che rimette la linea alla Certosa, che è un'isola intermedia con il Lido di Venezia. Lì la condotta attraverserà tutto il Lido per arrivare a Pellestrina, per arrivare a Porto Marghera, zona di Fusina. Pensate qui i nitrati che percorso fanno prima di arrivare e per essere depurati con una condotta nuova. Penso che l'obiettivo vero grande della città in futuro sia proprio quello di renderla degna di una città come tutte le altre nella terraferma, proprio con uno schema fognario, con un impianto fognario, difficilissimo da realizzare, soprattutto per gli edifici che sono fuori delle rive, fuori dai canali, per motivi proprio di incolumità statica anche degli edifici. Calli molto strette, già con tutti i sottoservizi, e si andrebbe ad aggiungere anche quello fognario, che a volte proprio non c'è lo spazio fisico per poterlo mettere in opera. Altri interventi che sono stati fatti e che si stanno facendo dopo tanti anni di grandi riflessioni sono quelli di rialzare le rive delle fondamenta, perché ci sono delle zone comunque che hanno avuto dei cedimenti. Quindi la difesa dal mare con il MOSE è una delle azioni necessarie, perché altre azioni necessarie sono proprio quelle sulla quotidianità, riportare sia per questioni statiche e strutturali gli edifici ad avere la loro sicurezza, ma soprattutto far sì che le acque non tornino indietro e possano allagare gli edifici e le calli strette. Però c'è un altro elemento che spesso e volentieri non si conosce, forse perché è sottovalutato, che quando si parla di Venezia, la città del mare, la sposa della città è il mare, ma in laguna sfociano 6 fiumi. Quindi dai monti abbiamo 6 fiumi che arrivano in laguna, dal mare abbiamo l'acqua salata, acqua dolce, acqua salata. I cambiamenti climatici dicono che ci sono delle escursioni in aumento per quanto riguarda l'innalzamento dei mari. Noi abbiamo vissuto dei forti eventi di secca, oggi è uno di questi. Se siete arrivati anche dal Ponte della Libertà, avete visto questi campi da golf, che sono il fondale della laguna, emergere e farsi vedere. Abbiamo vissuto 2 anni e mezzo di siccità, quindi carenza d'acqua, e il cono di salinità rientrava per 40 chilometri circa dentro i nostri fiumi. Quindi la città di Venezia non è solo una città osservatorio dell'innalzamento dei mari, ma tutto ciò che arriva anche da attività antropiche di paesi, di città che sono sulle rive di questi fiumi, che riversano poi nella laguna. Questa città sta investendo molto proprio per difendere a valle, cioè le foci, attività di gestione dei nitrati, quindi tutto ciò che può essere un inquinante che si mette in laguna. Laguna, sempre in pillole, non è un habitat naturale, è un habitat antropico. È dal 1500 che i veneziani stanno lottando fisicamente contro la natura, perché la natura chiede che la laguna diventi terre emerse. Dal 1500 l'uomo dice no, deve essere specchio d'acqua, per tantissimi motivi che in pillole non riesco a raccontarvi. Le energie. Le energie, una macchina inquina l'aria, una barca inquina l'aria e l'acqua, perché il motore è immerso. Quindi anche la scelta di avere dei motori ibridi, ecco che il salone nautico che verrà inaugurato domani mattina mi dica how many time? Bye, stop. As a finish. Stiamo lavorando molto sulla transizione energetica di mezzi di trasporto anche dei nattanti, che sono in ritardo rispetto ai mezzi gommati, ma da questo punto di vista stiamo investendo molto nell'idrogeno. Ci sarà il primo impianto di produzione di idrogeno a Porto Marghera, abbiamo fatto una variante urbanistica dove produzione, stoccaggio, distribuzione e utilizzo saranno una catena di economia circolare dell'idrogeno in prossimità. Dal 2026 al 2032 nel Canal Grande transiteranno solo mezzi di navigazione ibridi e quindi anche qui cerchiamo di risolvere in modo molto rapido questa transizione energetica dei mezzi natanti. E sono molto contento anche che Fortin con le nostre agenzie demaniale e la città partecipano a un evento di Reinventing City mettendo a disposizione due ambiti importanti che sono il Forte di Sant'Andrea e la Casa Madonna di Nicopeia che è al Lido. Quindi entrare in un circuito dove tutti stiamo affrontando dal punto di vista di rigenerazione urbana penso che sia solo una cosa utile. Chiudo con un augurio. Non so quanto starete qui in città, però solitamente quando una persona viene in città gli si augura sempre del bene e lo faccio anch'io nei vostri confronti. Però quello che vi dico potrebbe apparire negativo. Questa è una città fantastica. Spegnete i cellulari quando siete per strada, camminate a naso, perdetevi perché è la cosa più bella che la città vi possa regalare, la sorpresa che in ogni calle potrete scoprire. Quindi grazie ancora per averci invitato, sono pillole ma queste vi ho dato.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. So our first session, as I was mentioning before, is going to discuss about how cities are using the power of master plan, land use policy to integrate the main objective of their master plan and to implement them on the ground. Just to set the discussion a little bit, let me share a few slides. So all of the city, most of the city have now identified what are the key objectives they need to and the key actions they need to implement. They have a climate action plan aligned with the objective of the Paris Agreement that also includes some adaptation objective. Now, the main objective is to implement. And for these, master plan has actually a very powerful document, legally binding to implement urban planning and climate action. So we know that the urban planning model that is now adopted all over the world is not working for today and is highly carbon intensive. With the introduction of cars in cities, it has really transformed our public space, but it has also extend distance between the different functions of the cities, increasing urban sprawl, increasing over-specialization of land use that has increased a lot of GHG emission, air pollution, consumption of natural land. So we need to reverse this urban planning model. The good news is that the IPCC, so the main group of climate experts, has been very clear. If today cities start to adopt a model based on compactness, mixed use, transit-oriented approach, they could reduce their GHG emission by approximately 25%. So it's a very important lever for cities to accelerate their climate action. Where does this 25% come from? They come from transport emission, a good urban planning model with directly enabling mode shift and reduced travel distance. We know, for example, that a city like Barcelona, compact, integrate, has 10 times less emission compared to a low-density city like Atlanta, for example. It's also reduced building emission because shared walls, smaller housing units that we are experiencing in cities are actually a very automatic way to reduce emission from the construction and operational emission for heating, cooling our building. And of course, by curbing urban sprawl, we can sequester a maximum of carbon and therefore reduce our emission. If we combine these three components, we arrive to the 25% of emission reductions that I was mentioning. So a very powerful way to accelerate climate action. But let's be honest, today we are not going in the right direction. If we look at the trend of urban sprawl, especially in the world, we know that urban expansion are growing up to 50% faster than the population. If we don't change the model of cities, urban area could triple in size by 2050. And actually, Europe is probably one of the worst when it comes to urban sprawl, and we have a real problem in that sense. But let's see the positive side. There is a new momentum, especially since the COVID, between cities all over the world and city planners to say that we need to come back to this model of compact, mixed-use, people-centered city because it could also create a more walkable, thriving urban environment. And there is a lot of research that are actually showing that it improves quality of life and it could even reduce some of the household costs, for example, such as transport. So we are seeing this momentum happening. It's called sometimes 15-minute city of proximity, but it's underlies the same key feature. So it's a form of new momentum, but at the same time, let's be honest, it's a form of U-turn as well, and its look, compact, mixed-use, integrated, walkable, that's very similar to the European historical model of cities. So there is not a big revolution here. It's just coming back to a form of comprehensive and human scale vision of the cities. In terms of climate risk, we also know that the current urban planning model is exacerbating our climate risk. Two key statistics on this one. We know that the way cities are growing is happening more in areas that are already identified as very risky in terms of flooding and landslide compared to safe areas. We also know that cities tend to erase green space that are a very natural protector for flooding and urban heat islands. If we look, for example, what's happened in Valencia earlier this year, like the terrible flooding we have seen, of course, it's not urban planning that has created the massive rain, but the way city has been developed in the past 10 years are really exacerbated the consequence of the flooding, constructing in zones that was already identified as risky, paving over permeable space, paving over wetland, lack also of development of retention basins. So all of these, if I can say, bad urban planning model has really increased the consequence of this dramatic. The same in terms of urban heat. All of cities in Europe now are fighting again extreme heat in their cities. Expansion of building, roads, car parks that are made with asphalt, concrete, which we know very well that are heat retaining for materials. We also know that the urban form of our city do not think enough about how we could let natural airflow come in our cities. And again, we don't secure enough space, land for green space that will help us to fight extreme heat. The good news is that there is a lot now studies that show that when you bring back nature and permeable soil in city, you decrease a lot the temperature. You can decrease up to 5 degrees in the case of extreme peak. So we know what is a climate responsive urban planning model is one that is compact, that is trying to curb urban sprawl is one that is polycentric, mixed use. It's one that is steer new development next to public transport. It's one that is risk-informed, that means limiting, zoning the areas that are have specific risk. It's securing land for nature, and it's also increasing the amount of affordable housing in our city, because we know that the most vulnerable people, the ones that are excluded from the housing services, are the ones that are more vulnerable to extreme heat. So now, let's discuss how cities are doing it, and I'm very happy to invite our first panel on stage, Giancarlo Tancredi, Deputy Mayor of Urban Regeneration and Urban Planning of Milan, Miriam Peon Gonzalez, who is the Director General of Office of Madrid Master Plan, and Stéphane Leclerc, who is Deputy Mayor, Director General of the City of Paris. They will share their experience as the three cities have just finished or in the process of revising their land use policies. So I think, yes, this is working. So I think my first question will be for, I know my first question, will be for you, Stéphane. So Paris has recently unveiled its new land use plan, that you call it bioclimatic master plan. Could you just explain us how climate objective has been integrated into this new master plan?
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you today. So, indeed, Paris revised recently its master plan and called it bioclimatic. That means that this new master plan aims to tackle two main issues for today, a big city like Paris. It's to adapt such a big and dense city to climate change, to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions, and to bring back nature. And I will try to explain to you why. What is bioclimatic architecture? It is an architecture that copes with the challenge of reducing carbon emissions. The first key principle is to stop demolishing buildings. We must come back to the way that cities were built. We must transform existing buildings rather than demolish and build new ones. The existing buildings were very often built in a very proper way. They can have many lives. They can have a very long lifetime. And we want to stop this tradition of the 1950s to the 1980s, where the energy was available and free, and to do with what is existing. Then we must accelerate the thermal insulation of existing buildings so that people can live even when the weather is very hot. We must come back to traditional ways of ventilating buildings. It's a way of devising the inner plans of apartments. We need to have sufficient heat in the apartments so that you're not too hot in summer. We need to have natural ways of bringing wind and fresh air in the buildings. The town is also a way of producing energy. And we want also to accelerate the production of energy in the city. We want to reuse the materials. We don't want to go on throwing away. The city constructions are not throwing away plastic material. And we want to bring more natural materials because we want to put an end to concrete cement use. Concrete has a very bad carbon emissions bilan, and we want to foster, again, traditional methods like wood, straw, etc.
So you had a few.
So here you have a few slides illustrating what I said. The sector of construction is about 1/4 of all carbon emissions of a city like Paris. So that shows the importance it has in reducing the impact. Doing with existing buildings means to transform them. You can add new stories to an existing building. You can increase its size. You can reorganize. And this means that when you devise a building, you need to think of its future lives. You're not building a construction for only 10 or 20 years. You're building it for centuries. So you need to have ways of building the structure that can be changed and that can be reversible and that can have several lives. This is an example of constructions which has a very good carbon emission result using only natural materials, providing good comfort for the inhabitants. And we can bring more nature into the city. We can bring nature in the buildings themselves. We can have roofs with vegetation. We can try to protect as much as possible the soil, the ground, which is very important for the regulation of water. The new master plan sets some ambitious objectives. When you build a new construction, you must protect a good part of the existing land, so that it's not possible to have, like in the past, constructions which make the whole town, the whole soil, impermeable to water. And it's also a big challenge for public space. Paris used to be a very mineral town with lots of macadam, bitumen, and you have a few examples of ambitious projects which show that you can bring more nature in the city itself. You have a square of Paris called Place de Catalogne, which was 100% mineral square, and we turned it into a garden which provides shadow and comfort for the inhabitants, which provide a place for the water. And we can also do this in very old, heritage-rich towns. We are in Venice, and there is vegetation in Venice, and in Paris it's possible to reconcile heritage and nature. You have a picture of one of the major squares of Paris, which is called la Place de la Concorde, which connects le Parc des Tuileries and the Champs-Élysées. It used to be the place where there was the guillotine during the Revolution. And it used to have gardens in the past, in the 18th century when it was devised, but progressively it was turned into a 100% mineral square for cars. It used to be a car parking in the 1970s, then it was a big roundabout square for cars, and we just released the result of a competition. 1 month ago, the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, showed the winner, which proposes to bring back lots of grass, trees on this square, while at the same time totally respecting the initial design of the architects.
Thank you, Stéphane. And it's very impressive to see how Paris is not only saying we do, but now it's really part of all of the project and the land use policies that Paris is developing. I'm coming to you, Miriam. So you are leading the first master plan of Madrid since 1997. And it would be great if you could explain us how you intend to integrate some of the objectives of your climate action plan in this important new document for the city.
Thank you very much, Helen. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me being here and in this interesting event, city event. We are now in Madrid starting these jobs, this work to renew the general plan, and we are in a very initial moment, but it's important to know how big we are. I can show you this data. We are 605 kilometers square area, and we have already almost 3.5 million inhabitants in the municipality. And then if we look through the municipality area, metropolitan area, we arrive to 7.5 million inhabitants. That means we are very big, and after Paris, we are one of the most biggest metropolitan areas. So we have to prepare the city for this growth, and we have to prepare the city to this climate change that we are living. And it's very important for us. Well, where are we going with these images? We have launched public tender to contract a team, a multidisciplinary team.
You got it.
Yes, and based in 3 vertices, 3 axes. Participatory system is very important. Society participate in this new way of doing urbanism, because they are going to suffer and they have to understand why we take some decisions. For example, because we have to be prepared for this climate change. We also have this public tender with it's very important technology, data, and the analysis, diagnosis to go through. And also, if you can go back a little bit, and also the urban strategic. But these are the 9 goals we are facing right now. And as you ask us, urban, public space, climate neutrality, and sustainable mobility and proximity are our main challenges that we are facing. How are we doing that? With roundtables, with the three administrations participating in these roundtables, and with all the experts that have something to do with these challenges together, trying to find the best solutions. Go ahead, please. These are the three roundtables that we are preparing. We have already prepared to face these challenges: climate neutrality, public space and mobility, and these are the bowls, the ballots that with the actions that are going out of these roundtables. We have mapped also the risk, because it's very important to have this information. Our main problem is the heat waves and the heat in Madrid, droughts and extreme events as in any capital city, but for us the most important thing is climate change. In climate change is heat. So we are now trying to introduce this in a new way of a new figure of planification, trying to put this axis: no combustion, zero emission buildings in 2050, renewable energies, local sources, electrification, and public space is very important for us, and mobility. Go ahead if you can. I can show you what we are already doing. We are already promoting the public transport. We have now the most important public transport electrical. We have renewal all the bus fleet. We have abandoned the coal-fired boilers in the city from 2022, and we are implementing the low emission zones where you can pass with the car to the city. And we are promoting a very interesting action, and is constructing a metropolitan forest that is already constructed 76 kilometers square. It will be a forest that will surround all the city. And now in our strategic plan, we are planning to get into the city through corridors, green corridors from this metropolitan forest, to take the nature inside the city and to load the climate. We are also promoting a lot of soft mobility. Cycling is BCMAD, is a public service with cycling, and pedestrian and cyclist mobility is one of our best aims. And we are giving grants, such as Cambia Plan 360 is a sustainable plan that support people in Madrid to be able to restore their buildings. And also we are creating urban oases, because we need shelter for this heat, and we are trying to use the old buildings, municipal buildings, public buildings for this, just to rest and to protect from this heating. And the last thing I didn't write because it was approved yesterday is that we have approved a special plan to change all the roofs, the top roofs of the buildings in green. So we are given incentives to change and to put green in the roofs of the city. Go ahead, the last one, I think. Oh, no, okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, thank you, Miriam. It's interesting to see how cities inspire each other, because a lot of the strategy you are exploring is actually being developed, and that's very interesting. Giancarlo, Milan is also in the process of revising its PGT, its new PGT. Could you tell us especially how you have integrated climate resilience objective to especially reduce heat wave, reduce flooding risk in the city of Milan? How this is integrated in the new master plan that you are preparing now?
Thank you, Hélène, and it's a pleasure to be here with you and in this extraordinary venue. Milan is at the top of a huge land, agricultural land, that is the Pianura Padana. And within the boundaries of the...
Put the microphone...
Okay. Yeah. And within the boundaries of the city, we have about 40 million square meters of agricultural areas that are a sort of filter between the city and the Pianura Padana. And in the last years, we work a lot to increase the green areas in the city and in this sort of belt. And we increased until 3 million square meters in last 10 years of agricultural areas. It's not possible to build in Milan in green areas, only in brownfield. And in the city, we realized in last about 15 years, about 50 new parks, because we have a rule that when you transform a big brownfield area, you must realize the 50% in green. In the new plan, we want to increase green areas. We want to introduce new tools and new policies in order to reduce the climate vulnerability. And one is adjustment of the climate impact reduction index and the limitations on the use of monetization to compensation. And this is the first measure, that the climate impact reduction foreseen green facade, green roofs, and the paving and the trees on the area of intervention, and some other measures. The second is large green buffers up to 30 meters for rivers and canals. And today the buffer zone is only up to 10 meters, and this is for the hydraulic risk in the city. And the third is to differentiate performance standards for interventions in areas with high climate vulnerability. And this is through a new tool that we say later, that is the neighborhood atlas, the Atlante dei quartieri. This is the main measures that we are working to introduce with new plan.
So thank you very much, Giancarlo.
Then we speak about
you want to say say a few words about the atlas, because then we will go to the next slide. But you want to say a few words about the atlas in action?
This is the new project for the local scale of the city for the neighbors. Is Atlante dei quartieri, Neighborhood Atlas. And there are 3 main lines. One is extended infrastructure for human-centered public spaces. And these are the main principles: strengthen cycling and walking connections, improve public transport accessibility, enhance the quality on the livability of public spaces, and enhance the pedestrian permeability. This is a big project of city of proximity, of 15 minutes city. The second line is the green and blue infrastructure to make room, to make space for the environment in the city. This provides tree plantings and green axis, continuity of parks, gardens, and green spaces, the paving, and combat the urban heat islands. And the third is the social issue, inclusive infrastructure for community, and to create new neighborhood centers starting from schools, because you use the school during the morning, but not during the afternoon, and they are very resources for the city, for the people, and to improve accessibility to service, and 3, strengthen proximity networks for the people of the neighbors.
Thank you very much. Your 3 cities have already quite compact urban core, surrounded by less compact peripheral area. How do you city plan to accommodate the new population, accommodate the important housing demand in the existing urban fabric. And I will start with you, Stéphane. Maybe if you can tell us, for example, about the transformation that is happening right now in Paris with the Grand Paris Express, how this has shaped a little bit the transformation in the city, and maybe if you can also tell us about the revolution of mobility that is happening in Paris, which is really improving the quality of life in the very dense Paris.
Thank you, Hélène. Yes, actually, you have to think of the both scales at the same time, the large scale of big metropolitan areas where you have to provide efficient public transport, mass transit transport, so that people can do without their cars. And Paris has decided to launch, it was in 2010, the biggest, the most ambitious public transport project of the whole of Europe. It's to build a new metro infrastructure of 200 kilometers. That means doubling the size, the length of the existing metro system. It will connect the different peripheries between themselves and aims to reduce strongly the share of cars for everyday traffic. But it's also a project of urban development, since it aims to create new communities and centers in a polycentrical philosophy for this whole suburban area, which has altogether nearly 8 million people living in the suburbs of Paris. Each future station, there will be 68 of them, aims to be the center of a new place where you can find everything you need in the 15-minute city philosophy. You must find the shops you need, you must find public spaces, equipment, sport, culture, and schools, of course, so that people can both move very easily from one part of the metropolitan area to the other, and at the same time find around themselves where they live all that they need for the everyday life. The second thing you mentioned is how can you bring less cars in the center of big cities, which is very living cities with a big economy. And the municipality decided to act in a very ambitious way to develop cycling, as Madrid mentioned a few minutes ago. We have developed 600 kilometers of new bicycle lanes. It has been difficult because cars used to drive everywhere in the town. And this is, for example, a picture of Rue de Rivoli, which is one big famous street in the center of Paris. We cut it to car traffic, and it's now only accessible for bicycles and cars. And the modal share of bicycles jumped from 3% 10 years ago to 11% this year. So it has been a very fast and very strong response of people. If you provide them with the secure bicycle lanes, people, they take their bicycles because it is more efficient, it's good for health, it is less expensive than the car. So if you provide people possibilities to use other modes of transport than car, they use them. Another example is the pedestrianization of many streets based on the logic of children. We want to have a possibility for children in big metropolitan areas to have their own life as they used to have in the past. And the mayor of Paris often says that her project is that the parents can leave the hand of their children in the streets, so that they're not afraid of their children having accidents. And we decided to pedestrianize all the streets where there are schools. We call them rues aux écoles, school streets. And in front of all the schools, now you see children playing football, soccer in front of their school. The parents can go and leave their children move easily. And this has had a major impact on the quality of life of people. And we also took this possibility to bring more nature in the streets. We planted trees, we have grass, and it is a major success for people.
200 school streets in a few years. It has been a real revolution in Paris.
And we made a votation 2 months ago to ask Parisian people if they wanted to have 500 more of these school streets, and they voted yes.
Congratulations. Myriam, what is Madrid's current strategy of urban regeneration, given city's extensive peri-urban area? We would be especially interested in understanding how you promote compact, transit-oriented development in these peripheral areas of Madrid.
Thank you. Yes, here you can see some structural regeneration actions that we have already done in Madrid, and these can show our commitments. For example, you can see Madrid Rio, that is, we have buried the highway and make it green, and it's very interesting because it has put two neighborhoods together. New regenerated strategies in, for example, in a part with taking an old stadium and changing it into green areas and residential one. And the last one is Madrid Nuevo Norte and the buried of the A5, that is a highway that is getting into the city. So these are the images that we are changing in Madrid. But now for the next slide, please. Now, for studying the best model for Madrid, we need, and that we launched in that public tender, we need to have a very serious diagnosis of the city. And we have to make a plan based in data and combining data with the things that are occurring, that are happening in the city, so that we can measure and choose the correct strategy. Go ahead, please. If you can go with no, is a video? Okay, it doesn't matter. We are studying the city and trying to know which is the strategy you should install. For example, also speaking about density, redensity, and making polycentric city, as you have said before. And we are studying all the city with this platform, with this data platform, and indicators of quality indicators. So we are going to be able to measure and choose the correct strategy for areas. Go ahead. And for example, here you have the residential regeneration. You can see the map. Here is a gap between the north and the south. So it's very shocked that we have to put some strategies that re-densify the south. We can build more affordable housing. We need more green, and we have to regenerate. But where? Overall, in the south part of the city. Go with it. We are studying the new developments in the city and how the city is built. So we are studying how are we redensifying that. So trying to convert this, to change this sprawl of the city into density and compact city, but without losing our identity. It's not worth to go ahead with a lot of floors over, but yes, it's possible to give more buildability or incentives to make private investors to go and to invest in the city and to make polycentric and re-densify the neighborhoods. Next, please. Yeah, these roundtables that I was telling you before has been going out the first studies. For example, in the left map, or in the first map, you can see areas where we are now studying. We can densify and make these polycentric areas, so that we have also the metro station and the public transport prepared. Maybe we should improve the public transport in the southeast part, because it's now being built after 25 years. So it's a moment of improving it and to re-densify these areas. And also, they're coming out new axis. Economical one is from north to the south. Another economical one that is going through the east and west part. But now also new axis, cultural axis. Is very important. The culture in Madrid is a culture with museums, arts, that is going from the upside to the downside. And also, these green axes are creating a new model of the city, and they are creating polycentric centers. So here you can see with this strategic simulator and this tool that we are preparing with our public tender, maybe we are going to be able to also view and to see what would happen if we rise 2 floors in this area and then introduce a green area or a blue infrastructure. What would happen? And you are going to be able to measure and to be more objective in your decisions. So this is what we are already preparing, just following your mention before.
Very inspiring to see how you use this data-driven approach and this new tool to push this vision of multiple, complete neighborhood with all of the different factors that make urban living, livable. Giancarlo, same question for you. How the new master plan of Milan will advance this vision of compact, mixed-use city while also promoting this polycentric development or metropolitan?
But we have a historical problem in the city because the city is not like Paris or London or Rome that have not only center, historical center, but Milan have a only historical center, is a radiocentric city, and the big companies and the big public locations and structures are in the center of the city. But in the last 15 years, we are working about a polycentric strategy, and we started with new big projects, Porta Nuova and City Life, and sorry, that I think you know. And we go on with a strategy of the public important functions in the external areas of the city, and new university campus and the new big public functions. And in the new plan, we want to change the intermodal hubs. We want to launch this new project that is the Metropolitan Gates. And we want to transform today our infrastructural space into mixed-use neighborhoods while preserving the intermodal characteristics. The goal is to embed in a new compact urban development all the infrastructural components, such as the parking and the public transport hubs. The 10 new metropolitan gates are promoting also new connections with the surrounding context, overpassing infrastructural barriers such as highways and traffic junctions. And the second project is the radical transformation of 2 existing viaducts into new public spaces and services. This is Cavalcavia Montecenere, this is rendering, and such as the Promenade Plantée in Paris or the High Line in New York. These through redeveloping spaces under and around the overpasses, creating new urban places, reconsidering the urban role of these infrastructures with a review of traffic flows, and enhancing the availability of community serving spaces, cultural and gathering spaces, public interest services, local businesses. And then you can see this is on the left is a competition for young architects. On the Cavalcavia Corvetto, and on the right is a render, a fantasy render which can be the bridge in the future.
Thank you very much. I had a last question, but my colleague told me we are a little bit late. So I want to thank you. Thank you very much for your overview, for giving this overview of this transformation happening in your 3 cities and your new master plan. So thank you very much, Stéphane, Mariam, and Giancarlo. So I think the 3 interventions we just show the importance of this polycentric development of the city. One thing which is great with polycentric cities is that I think it opens the door to also a more bottom-up approach of urbanism based on proximity, neighborhood scale transformation. And that's going to be the focus of our next session, which is called Block, Street, Squares, Building Proximity from the Ground Up. And this session will feature 3 inspiring presentations from city leaders from Rome, Athens, and Warsaw. So it's now my pleasure to welcome on stage Maurizio Velocia, who is the Deputy Mayor of Urban Planning and 15 Minute City from Roma. The floor is yours. You want to come here, or do you want to? And you are two.
Okay. Thanks to all, and welcome everybody. Okay, I'd like to explain our 15 minutes program in Rome. Okay, but let me say something before. Some numbers about Rome. Rome is a very big city, a very large city, about 1,020 square kilometers. So it's a very large city. And the 66% of Rome is free land. So part of Rome are countryside, real countryside. So it's not easy to create a 15-minute program in Rome, because when you talk about a compact city, in Rome it's not completely real. So in Rome we have a lot of different cities in the same city. So a lot of different neighborhoods in the same cities. So it's not easy. Other point, Rome now is living, I could say, a new age, a time in which a lot of projects are being made. We are making a lot of projects thanks to Jubilee program and Next Generation Youth. So thanks to a lot of money, more than 5 billion of euros. And we are making different kind of projects. Infrastructural projects like the third metro line, and we are projecting the fourth metro line, public projects, and not only infrastructure but project on public spaces, like a new square which embraces the Vatican City to the old city, Piazza Pia, in the place of a street, a large street, a road street. We create an underless road, and we create a square, a new square. But all these projects are connected to a strategy, the strategy of proximity. So I don't want to show you great projects, but I want to show you small projects, so-called small projects, to show you that we are trying to change Rome deeply with a lot of iconic projects, but we don't want to forget every neighborhood and a strategy in each neighborhood. And I want to show you two projects. Why we want to try to perform a 50-minute program? Because Rome is very different, I've said. We have a lot of different neighborhoods, some compact neighborhood and some low-density people neighborhoods. So we need to have different approaches to change the life of these neighborhoods. In this case, for example, okay, we are in a old neighborhood born with the fascism. So a planned part of city, very compact, with a lot of people, and with a lot of cars. In Rome, we have one person and one car, more or less, more than 2 million of cars. So we need to reduce cars, we need to reduce pollution, we need to create more school street, more pedestrian areas, we have to depaving, we have to create new parks. And in this case, the approach was trying to study this district, this neighborhood, But not only this, we decided to study 15 districts in all the city, one for each municipality, because in Rome we have 15 municipalities with their president, with their assembly, voted by people. So we find one neighborhood to be studied in each municipalities. We create a master plan with a priority of projects, and then we started to perform the first, the second, the third, and now in this kind of part of city, we have 4 or 5 projects that were planned, and now we are building this new parks. In this case, an pedagogical microforest with the children of the school, new school street, new sport area, for example, in a sporting center completely abandoned, closed. So we try to change the way in which the people works, studies, works, live in that district. First of all, connecting existing public services, because in this kind of part of city we have a lot of public services, but sometimes they are not connected. Then transforming areas currently dominated by cars into new public spaces, and then trying to improving the accessibility to the metro station and to the public services like public transportation. And then tactical urbanism. So 2 kinds of projects are a new strada scolastica, thanks to also the collaboration with the Bloomberg Foundation, and a microforest created with the schools, so with a very deep and important program of teaching the importance of trees in Rome. In Rome, in the last 3 years, we have planted more than 100,000 of new trees and plants. While I want to show you another kind of neighborhood, here we are in a completely different neighborhood. This is like a rural neighborhood, because this is a part of city born in a way completely illegal. In Rome, after the Second World War, a lot of people coming from the south of Italy came to Rome to find a job, to find a home, and they built themselves their home. So this is not a planned neighborhood. So this is a very low density kind of city, and it's very difficult to find public spaces, for example, in this kind of neighborhood. While the real resource of this neighborhood, that is the countryside, is not connected to the buildings. So first things that we have done is transforming a parking area in a new pedestrian square. Now we are to do that. It's not easy, because all the people who live there don't want a new pedestrian area, because they want to maintain their car parking. But now that we are creating it, now people are changing their ideas. So about that. And it's very important, because we need to improve public spaces in this kind of neighborhood where there are not public spaces. Last slide, next step, a new agenda for proximity. So we need to start with this 15 master plan, but we need to create an agenda for all the city. And we want to use not only our work, but all the work and all the policies in action. First of all, also thanks to C4T, for integrate the other policies and action by my colleagues, transportation, public services and social services, and also sustainability through my colleague who works on environment. So gender equality is very important. Now we are starting with a new project on gender equality and the importance of active engagement of people who live in this neighborhood. It's not easy to change also their ideas. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Maurizio, and amazing to see this neighborhood revolution happening in Roma. And I would like to invite on stage now, thank you, Maurizio, Mauro Evangelidou, the Deputy Mayor of Urban Regeneration and Resilience from the city of Athens, who will also present the 15-minute city program that Athens is now implementing. Thank you. And you can come here, you can sit, whatever you prefer, Mauro.
I thank you very much C40 for being here for us, for being here to help this effort we are making on planning, on city planning, in a country where the culture of planning is not very strong, but it's very important, and I really thank Hélène and all the rest of you for inviting us and support. So, about the 15 minutes open neighborhood project that we are trying to set on, it's included in the philosophy of justice, spatial, climate, and mobility justice, which is good to have a big vision in order to go to the lower levels of intervention. I like starting by saying that there is no Virginogenesis, how do you say, I don't know. The 15-minute city is a new narrative for previous planning approaches, which is good to know and good to stress. But what is important for us is that the compact city concept is included in our official documents, so we can step on that in order to go on. And what is important also is that we have strategies, we have strategic guidelines, and we have the level of legislative rule, but we don't have operational tools in order to go from the strategy to the implementation. And I think this is very important for us. So what is important is that the new slogan helps the 15-minute city, helps to better understanding by citizens what is compact city and what is the idea, and to create an effective relationship between planning levels, and I'm coming to the planning levels. We have the strategic plan, which is based on the compact city, and we have also the national framework, which at the same time. We have the land use plan for the city of Athens. This is the community of Athens within the big agglomeration of Attica, which is the reason. And we have the street plan, which is the street, or I don't know how they call it in other countries, but which is a little bit, how do you say? It's not taken care very often at least in Greece. So I want to repeat the three fundamental principles for the compact city, which is it is accepted the high density, but under condition. It's not if it doesn't go with collaboration for pedestrian mobility, for example, it's not useful. The polycentricity model, which is important for the transport system, and the nature into the city. I'm sorry if I repeat, but what is important for Athens is to think, is it a city ideal for the 15 minutes concept? There are many people who are saying, okay, Athens, we are already a 15 minutes city because you have close to you the shopping, the school, even the doctors, the avocado, how should I say, everything, because the system, the condominiums, the idea of the condominiums built about in 70s, 80s, and so on, was really a mixed-use urban tissue. So we have high density, we have multifunctional urban tissue, and we have a limited social segregation. It's not very evident in Athens because the multi-floor buildings have all kind of classes because of the difference of the quality of life, the first floor or ground and on the upper floors. But we have some very serious weaknesses on this urban tissue. I forgot to show you that these red things are the 5 minutes walkable distance, the 10 minutes, and the 15 minutes, the three colors. So in a hypothetical center, urban center of these 7 districts we have in Athens city. And the 2 stars are the big metropolitan projects of metropolitan parks we are trying to set on, and I spoke on that on Milano, if you remember. But okay, they are some industrial area on the west and a military area, brownfields, both of them, in the east. So the weaknesses. We have really a very inefficient public transport system at metropolitan level. So whatever you are trying to do in the city center, in the community, the municipality of Athens, it's inefficient if it doesn't work with the rest. A very bad designed public space. Really, inaccessibility is the normality. You don't see people in wheeling chairs in Athens because they cannot go out of their houses, and it's very important. And a lack of green areas, and we are trying to have money to expropriate. We have really big problems on that, and governance weaknesses in sense that. I passed to Warsaw. It's no. It's from the end.
Is that your slide?
Okay. Yeah. Yes, I think.
But you have
yes. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So those are 2 plans at metropolitan level. The one is on the metro stations, and the other is on bicycle lanes. Just to tell that we need to collaborate, and we have some proposals from the other administration levels. One which is important is to make park and ride stations in the peripheral metro stations. And there was, what we have done recently was the walkability strategy. And you can get into Athens Walkable and see more things on that. What I want to stress is that we have the strategy and we have some indicators, but we lack the middle level I was saying before. So this will be what we're trying to do. We have 3 levels. We're working on micromobility. There is a big issue to regulate these scooters. We're trying to set on municipal traffic transport in order to relate the neighborhoods between them, and the electric bikes, which is a project. Walkability is another way we're trying to have low cost and big impact interventions like the pedestrian crossings, which is a very important one. And what we're trying to set on is a participatory procedure for the 15 minutes, because it's really important to change mentalities, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have the relationship with inhabitants in order to ask what will be another kind of demand than having a parking place in the street, which is the first thing they ask for us. And I'm happy to hear that in other countries we have in other cities the same problem, but we cannot evaporate the cars.
The mayor of Paris was saying, I will evaporate the car.
You did, I know, but you have open space for other things. Anyway, we need the policy. It's very important to have a park policy, and we are trying to do it, and I will speak better on that in other occasions.
Thank you so much, Maro, for sharing with us the vision you are pushing in the city of Athens since 1 year that you have come in power in Athens. And now I would like to invite on stage Majzesz, I'm sorry, the Polish names are always very difficult. Majzesz Fijalkowski, who is the Secretary General of the city of Warsaw, and will tell us the fantastic transformation happening in the city center of Warsaw with the transformation of the Vistula River, especially, and the connection between the different neighborhoods of the city. The floor is yours.
Good morning, hi everyone. May I ask for? Oh, yeah. It will be helpful to understand Warsaw. I have to learn it also. Okay. Warsaw is a different story than both previous cities, especially Rome, which is one huge monument. Warsaw, after war, was destroyed in 70–80% in material sense, and the number of people decreased at the end of war by 99%. So it was completely erased, and it means that it was also rebuilt in a different way. It was rebuilt as a modern city with some historical parts and a lot of new inhabitants. So when we look at our strategy and a vision of the city, these two aspects, active residents and friendly place, as an opposite of new inhabitants, which are not always very engaged in the life of the city, on one hand. On the second hand, friendly space, because a lot of spaces are constructed in a very modern way. It means there are wide roads and unfriendly spaces. And our strategy, we are now updating it because it's quite new, but after war and COVID, after COVID and war, we had to add a new objective, number 5, resistant city. But the main objectives are focusing at the beginning on people, and then on convenient locality and functional space. And just to give you a few examples, what is in our case important, looking from a little bit from upside down, but then looking from specific to the specific projects. Of course, we are not the only ones, but we look at different functions of the city. So. We look that the city should be polycentric. It should have some hierarchy of functions and have different functionalities, because the city is at the same time is a place for people who live and use the services or the proxim spaces. At the same time, it's a regional city, is a national metropolitan city, and the capital city. So it has different functions, and combining all those functions is quite challenging. It's a pity that this snail is not very visible, but it's the fundament of our thinking about public services. So if you look at this internal types of services, we have those closest to the inhabitants, and those conversing into mobility ways should be mostly serviced by foot, by pedestrian mobility, and then adding new in terms of or in the dimension of district, we prefer much more to use cycle mobility. The second option is a bus transportation system in the dimension of local functions, so the district dimension. Then we have municipal and metropolitan functions, and they are mostly based on railways, either railways itself or metro, and also in case of metropolitan functions, it's the basic way of transportation we prefer. And if we look at mobility of people, the city is quite centric, so a lot of people are traveling into the city center. You can look at this on the left side of the slide. But also, historically, the city consists of more than 100 settlements, which are the basic units for planning. You can see it on the right side. And we try to put all those ideas into planning. The left one is, let's say, more theoretical approach. The right one is the practical, is an example of local planning zone for a new area where we are building metro line. So we try to combine those functions all together. The other example, an existing office district, which was quite monofunctional, mostly with office function. We recreated it by putting some residential functions also, new services. This is an example of a new school built in public-private partnership as an addition of those functions. And now about showing the city, Warsaw has the largest river, unregulated river in Europe. It's quite broad and doesn't help to cross both banks of the river. So we are putting a lot of efforts to allow it. Here we have two photos. The left one is from late 80s, and it is a city center. So the distance was about 2 kilometers to cross the river. In the meantime, we added two new bridges, which helps a lot. With the newest one, the pedestrian and for cyclists bridge, which connects historical part of the city with the second, with the right bank, which was in unfavorable conditions for many years. And one of our main projects in last years was the new center of the city. As I said, the city center was designed for modern times, with priority for cars and even for, I would say, for army parades in the city center. So these yellow areas are the new spaces the spaces we are recreating and making them more friendly to pedestrians and cyclists. And at the end, I have 50 seconds, so I will just show you a few examples of how it was transformed or is going to be transformed in the next few, in fact, months. Those projects are very advanced. So one of the squares in the city center before and after, as you can see, total change of use. Tunnel in the city center, completely unnecessary in front of Palace of Culture. Now it's being recreated, and we are at the end of the project that is going to create a new public space, much more friendly for our citizen. Yes, 3 seconds. No.
Thank you so much, Maciej. Thank you, Maurizio and Maro, for showing a little bit this neighborhood proximity revolution, public space transformation that we see accelerating all over Europe. And maybe just before going to the next session, we are just releasing today a report on the Green and Thriving Neighborhood Programme. Oops. That we have been working with 50 cities across the world to accelerate this proximity public space transformation in a city across the world. So yes, we put a QR code, please scan it, everything is online, and we will, we share not only example of project in city, but also tools and methodology we have been developing to help city accelerate their action. And now, we will be discussing about another very challenging but important discussion, which is about what do we do with our underused, vacant building in the city. And I'm welcoming my colleague, Cécile Faro, to join me on stage to present this panel. Cécile, the floor is yours.
I'm way too short. Thank you, Hélène. And oh, don't worry, all good. Thank you. Teamwork. Great. So thank you so much, Hélène. I'm Cécile. I'm the head of our clean construction program at C40 Cities, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all in this session as well, where we're talking about making the most of what we already have in our cities. And I'm delighted to invite our 3 panelists. Estelle Sabatier, who is the Director of Communication, Events, Audiences and Digital at Pavillon de l'Arsenal. Torleif Falk, who is the City Architect of the City of Stockholm. And last but not least, Paolo Mazzoleni, who is the Deputy Mayor for Urban Planning at the City of Toledo. Sorry, I was looking for the mic, didn't see it. So, it's really a topic that is close to my heart because the fabric of our city is very much what shapes our life. It's the walls and the roof that are over our heads in our homes, in our offices, in our hospitals. It's also the streets and the bridges in Venice that we use daily and walk on, or cycle on, or drive on. And it's the public spaces where we meet friends and family, where our kids play. It's very much the essence of our life, but as you've seen from all of the sessions this morning, it has a huge impact on the climate, in terms of emissions, in terms of adaptation and resilience, but also in terms of equity and how people have a chance to live their life. And so this panel is to discuss this topic. The most sustainable building is the one that already exists, as it's been said. So how do we tackle what we have, what needs to be renovated, what needs to be changed in its use, retrofitted, renovated, changed, vacancy? How do we tackle all of that? And so to start us off, I want to come to you, Estelle, and ask you a first question. Actually, I'm going to ask the three of you, the same question, but with a bit of a personalization for each of you. So what are the actions that you are taking, Estelle, with the pavilion? And can you tell us more about what the pavilion is and what one of your key initiatives about House Europe is, really to make sure that we can renovate, maintain, repair, use differently, and tackle our underuse and vacant spaces.
Thank you, Cécile. Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here in the name of Pavillon de l'Arsenal, and thank you, C40. Well, I'm representing the Pavillon de l'Arsenal. This is the Center for Architecture and Urbanism of Paris and the Parisian metropolis. So basically, we are a living space for all urban disciplines, but we also pioneer of emergent architecture and ecological subjects. We produce exhibitions, documentaries, we publish books, and we are doing a lot of debate. We are really a meeting place for all the players of the sectors, including politicians, real estate developers, researchers, artists. So we are such a living place, and I'm very happy about that. But recently, we are also at a turning point of our institution. We are committed in a European citizen initiative called House Europe, and I really think the House Europe team, Alina is with me today, so shout out to House Europe. And this is a really important thing for us because House Europe is about renovation and about how we can gather 1 million signatures to make sure that for the future, renovation will be in the European law to make sure to renovate more than we demolish. So this is very new for us.
Thank you so much. So please do look up for House of Europe and vote. This is a call right now. But it's really important what you're saying here about the need to bring people together and to have a dialogue about our cities, about the fabric and the built environment and how renovation with House Europe has a key role to play. So thank you so much for that. And as a follow-up, can you tell us why? What are the social, economic, environmental impacts of your actions? Why do you think that you have to do all of this?
As an institution talking about architecture and urbanism, I think it's just mandatory for us to provide content about ecological matter. And so our tools for us is to, well, produce exhibition and produce books and produce this debate to address all that matter. So our tool is like a soft power. We have the power to convince, the power to raise awareness about all of those subjects. And this is really the objective of our team, to raise awareness and to also, well, make architects like advocates also for those topics.
And does it work?
Well, yes, I think, well, Pavillon l'Arsenal is an institution working from 35 years, and it's always been like a pioneer on those subjects. So I think we have a very, very consistent group of architects following us and advocating for us on those subjects, and also we are a platform for them. We like to show avant-garde in architecture. We like to show young architects producing very innovative projects. We also want to be a platform for real estate developers making efforts, because they exist, and I have to I have to say that. And also for politicians, or for example, we are very like a cousin of the city of Paris. We are very close to them, and also Stéphane Leclerc. And it's very important to show also how the city of Paris is developing itself. So this is our role to show what is done today and what is possible for the future.
This is extremely important. And you were saying, as we were visiting the exhibition yesterday, that kids come and play within the exhibition, which is also quite important to bring the young generation to experiment and to have a feel of what the city of now and the city of tomorrow can be. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I will turn to you, Torlif, and I'm so sorry if I don't say your name right. I've been saying that since yesterday, realized without checking. can you tell us on your end the type of actions that you are leading and supporting and advising the city of Stockholm, and the type of policies that the city is taking to really look at what we have in terms of existing assets, building, infrastructure?
Yes, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here in Venice, in this community, in this beautiful town. Well, I'm quite positive actually about what's happening in this subject in Stockholm. Stockholm is a quite historical town, and it's a quite big interest now for historical values and aspects like that, and that has meant that the politicians are quite hard on demolishing buildings. So every project that anyone wants to demolish, it has to go through the politicians, and they often says no. And that means that it opens up for creativity and visions for how to handle used buildings. So, and at the same time, it's a quite strong movement from architects and other activists about this subject, and this has now moved towards the developers and the builders. So now we see that the builders are changing plans for demolishing to reusing existing buildings. So it's a quite clear movement, and we see quite strong innovation. As we see here is the Biennale with this innovation project. I think it's now going to commercial, and I think that's very important, because you could build some building as an enthusiast, but if you want larger volumes, that means more, it has to be commercial. So, for example, for some years ago, some architects wanted to build a building with used bricks, for example. But the building teams didn't want to give them warranty for the bricks, and the costs were double new bricks and so on. But now you can see in the product catalogs, they have used bricks, they have new bricks, and I mean, so it's really moving on. And we have a lot of public buildings in Stockholm that has been renovated for the last year, and maybe because of the cultural values. But for example, now we are rebuilding the opera. Many countries has built opera buildings, for example, as brand buildings for the city. So now I'm kind of proud that we can rebuild the opera, completing it with new architecture, showing both the historical grades and a new kind of technique for building. And I must also say something about timber buildings, which is maybe of course because most of Sweden is covered by woods. But there is quite strong movement for timber buildings as well, and that's lightweight constructions that is very useful to complete existing constructions.
And it's used on top,
yes,
right, on existing building, and this is thanks to the lightweight, as you say, of the material.
So it's coming very strong as well. Yeah.
So this is a range of actions that you are seeing in the city to really promote.
And we have policies and we have directions, but and it's new regulations coming, but as a municipality we can't force them, but we can make it possible.
And you can lead the way with your existing assets, your municipal assets, which you are doing. So congratulations on leading with action and not only with words, which is important nowadays. And really showing what is possible, also the momentum and the economic cost that is changing, the business case that is evolving. In in a minute, could you say what do you see as the most impact of taking this type of action? Is it a social impact? Is it an economic impact? Is it an environmental impact?
It's interesting with the economical impact because the values for the buildings in Stockholm has went down for the last year. So some of the companies has problem with their finance ratings, and then you can find other ways to get some points for the rating, which is working with sustainability. And most of their tenants also are very keen on having sustainable buildings to rent locations. So the economic helps actually. And about the environment and the social aspects, I think it's something with the identity. You know the buildings around you, and you can see the development. You are creating the future history when you add something to existing history, which I think it means something for a person, as a person.
This is such a critical point, right? Like what we already have is dear to our heart many times, and it builds this community, this sense of belonging to the city that we live in. And I think, thank you so much, this is something, Paolo, that you can relate totally well in Torino. Can you start by telling us which type of actions you are taking with the city of Torino to make the most of existing buildings? You have innovative legislation in place.
Yes, well, thanks also from me for inviting us and for giving us the opportunity of sharing the knowledge with this impressive community of people working in the city. It's always very useful and funny, so it's great. Well, it's a very specific topic, so it's just a little part of the work we are doing. But I feel very comfortable in representing Torino in this topic because reuse and adaptation is a long-standing tradition of the city. Since the late 80s and 90s, the city has more often transformed and reused than thrown away. And that's not so typical in the European city. We have incredible examples, the Lingotto. It's an enormous building, the one with the car track on the roof on the Italian Job movie, you know. And that's now, it's an incredible mixed-use urban machine with 2 hotels, a mall, university, student housing, everything packed in an existing building. And that's incredible. And it's very important, the identity issue on that, no? Because losing the place of work for the people, but reusing the building was very important. Or the OGR, it's an incredible building hosting now startups and events and so on. And even not only reusing with a different function, but also changing the nature of the building. We have the Dora Park, where the existing building becomes a public park and a public space. So you are not even obliged to keep a building as a building. You can also transform that. So it's something that we do have in Torino. I'm coming, doing this work as a deputy manager for urban planning from outside the city. I was not living in Turin before. And I think that it's even more clear to the people coming from outside. For the people in Turin, it's very natural not to throw away the things. It's an issue of common sense in a way. We discussed that. And so what we have to do, the main action that we have to carry out as an administration is to, in a way, take care of this culture of reusing, because the economical forces in a first attempt are not so clear that you have an advantage in reusing the building. Doing the financial plans of the investments is more difficult. It's more work. Just more work. They have to make more numbers. And so you have to explain to people that there's a value there, it's an economical value there, an environmental value there, and an identity value there. So the action is in the new master plan we are working on, take care of this. It's difficult because nobody wants to put rules that are, in a way, pushing away the investors Torino is not a growing city at the moment, so we need investors, and we need to make rules that are attractive in a way, but at the same time, we don't want to lose this culture. It's also a professional culture. We have very interesting also architects and designers on this issue, so this is very important. And on the other side, something that we are already started doing is a work on temporary uses, because in the temporary use it's more evident let's say the convenience, the economical convenience of reusing the building, and then when you start using it with a temporary use, is then easier to understand that you can reuse that building. So we made a local law on temporary use very freely, practically admitting every use if it's of interest of the city, if you reuse the building for a limited time.
Thank you so much, Paolo. And this is really such an inspiring example to see that, in Torino, the culture of making, of valuing what is there and repairing it, and then tailoring your policies from the temporary use to the master plan to preserve this identity, to preserve these ways of doing, is very much the way that you're doing about it, and that therefore you can show the economic, the environmental value, make the business case, while keeping the true identity and the true culture of the city. So you've answered both of my questions in one, so thank you so much for that. Now I would like to turn to another aspect, which is and you've all touched on it already, but we need to work with a range of stakeholders to achieve it, right? Like cities or Le Pavillon cannot do it on their own. So I would like now to really ask you all, how and with who do you work, in terms to engage the range of local stakeholders that are needed to maintain a vibrant and healthy and accessible spaces in our city that will meet everyone's need. Estelle? I'm Anglicizing your name, Estelle.
Well, the first objective for Pavillon de l'Arsenal was and still is to work not only by centering itself in Paris, regarding Paris. We have to be more open with the cities of the Parisian metropolis, because now we've got some very powerful tool, political and economic tool around the greater metropolis of Paris. And as an institution regarding architecture, we cannot not address all the exhibition or all our debates not regarding those cities. We need to enhance the collaboration with those cities, because the objectives are the same, the problems are the same. We share all the matters, so there is no sense to just limit ourselves to the administrative limitation of Paris. So this is our first goal, and thanks to C40 and thanks to House Europe, we increase a lot our European collaboration those past few years, and that's quite challenging also, because it demands to question about ourselves, question about Paris, and to pay maybe more attention to the other cities, and because we share the same problems. So at the end we have to collaborate a lot and to share our experiences, and this is really another way for us to act like as a cultural institution. It's every day we are richer from this experience.
And this is so important, to be this place of dialogue, right? Yeah. And to bring the different people together. So working with cities across Europe, and you were mentioning earlier that you're also working with developers. Yeah. So it's also not only focus narrowly on architecture, right?
Yeah, because in construction you work with everybody, and also, and for only the private sector. So we have to be together in those matters. In House Europe, we cannot win the battle of renovation without the private sector. It's impossible. We have to raise the awareness, and we have to make you feel the urgency to act regarding those topics. Even if you are a politician, a real estate developer, an investor, or a very strong activist, we are all on the same boat. So we have to act together somehow. And this is one of our roles, to organize debate and discussion with all the stakeholders.
And you bring a lot of them. If I summarize, it's cities and city officials, developers, investors, contractors, kids, and the general public. So you're bringing really a big range of people. Do you think that they bring a different message? Do they talk to each other when they visit your exhibitions?
Of course, we have to adapt a little bit the way we talk to each of those players, but at the end, the message is the same. But of course, sometimes we struggle a little bit with our communication. Well, not struggling, but we wondering, do we make the communication clear enough for the greater public? It is just, are we just addressing to architects, to experts, or are we able to convince a larger range of people? This is not simple every day, but paying attention to that is making sure that your action is spreading, as a wider range of impact, and this is the most important today.
Definitely, and this is the same battle that you actually have to win in the cities to bring the people with you. So thank you, Estelle, and Torleif. Same question to you, really. How are you working with a wide range of stakeholders locally, from the communities, the private sector, in all of its fragmentation, as well as investors?
Well, I must say, we in the municipality, I wouldn't say that we are leading the process. We are more like following and help it to happen. It's the private market, more the architects, the developers. But I'm sitting here thinking about how to bring all these inspiring thoughts from the Biennale. For example, we have a lot of temporary architecture in Stockholm in the public space. We're trying different themes, maybe one summer one thing, another summer another thing. And if we could add this, I mean, that's more for social aspects and to make Stockholm more attractive and things like that. But if we could add things in this subject, it could be really interesting, because then it could be like a test bed. Because the problem is all these materials and visionary work. It in the end it must be regulated, so for warranties and things like that when you build building. But in a temporary architecture, it's possible to try new solutions.
And do you try temporary solutions in existing assets? Is it a way to use also underused or vacant buildings?
And I wouldn't say that we are in that moment yet, but I got really inspired by this conference and the fair. So I hope we can manage that for the future.
So it is coming,
yeah,
hopefully, thanks to you. Super. And Paolo, on your side, how is the engagement with stakeholders going on this topic, of making the most of what we have? Is it easy? Do you find it more difficult?
Well, it's easier when you work case by case. We, as a city, started with our own buildings, and I think it's always important for the public to be, let's say, the example, not to ask the things you can't do. And so the main investment in the next generation investments in the city now, it's the new central library and a new theater that are made in an existing building with a different original use. So exactly what we are talking about. That's completely public, completely by us. And just to in a way to say it's possible. No, we can do it. That's the best way to convince the others to do the same things. And so we are working, for example, in other cases. I think that bringing together different actors is very important, also for the healthy of the investment and the healthy of the building. I think mixed use is very important, and mixed use is stronger if you have a multiple actor promoting the investment. So, for example, we have made public with public investments. A very good example, led by Demanio, is the Manifattura Tabacchi process. That it's only public, but different public bodies working together on the same process. Or, for example, with institutional private investment banks and foundation and so on. The Cavallerizza, I think, is the biggest historical compound under transformation in the moment in Europe, and it's in the city center, and another use of the building, change of uses, a lot of new public space for the city. But it's a public space with a lot of identity. It's a public space that it's already in the mind and in the heart of the people and the citizens. So that's very important. I think that when you go to case by case, it's easier to explain, to make evident the common sense we discussed, no? The common sense that making this way is better, even if your Excel page has 3 lines more to explain that you are using the building, but the common sense, the way that your grandmother wasn't throwing away the things just because they were broken, no? That's exactly the point. The challenge is how to extend this approach on a methodological way, in a master plan, in a general, let's say, rules of the city. That's much more challenging. I have no solution. We are working on it, and if I found something, I'll tell you, and also you, if you find something, tell us, please.
And this is so rich, right? Like to say, we can be innovative, we can find different types of mechanisms to bring and convince a range of actors, from diverse public bodies to the private sector, but also the general public, of the value of keeping the building while keeping the wisdom of older generation, and making it like a kind of like really the true identity as well of all of your efforts. So this is really, really amazing. Looking at time, I will go to my last question, which is the same, again, to all of you. But what would be your message, your key message to the audience, to your fellow cities in the room, to take away on what is one thing that you would recommend them to do to make the most of what we have, to value our existing building and really go against this demolition, build new type of culture? Estelle?
Well, I think we can say that renovation is really about taking care of the city and taking care of the people. And this is the basis for everything, the social contract basis. So, I mean, that could be obvious for everybody, but now we have to reconnect ourselves with the obvious and with our priority. And I think signing House Europe will be maybe your priority. I'm sorry, I'm a bit pushy about that, but it's so important because so many people will not experiment what it feels to see his house destroyed, your neighborhood destroyed. And that's a reality for so many neighborhoods in Europe, and that's a tragedy. And we can do something about that, and this is a collective effort, and I know that we can do it. So this is my message.
Thank you so much. And this is a collective effort, and that resonates with the theme of the Biennale, of course, about collective effort. So do take a look online and sign up, reinforcing the message. Torif.
Well, I think it's to open up the eyes for the historical aspects, actually. I mean, as you say, to take care of your town, or your city. I mean, that is a very strong part for the identity and for the brand of the cities, actually. And I mean, if you combine that with the way to build and to reuse, it's easy to like the ideas of this way to work. So I think that's a good pedagogical way. For the architects here, I would say knowledge about technique is very important. It's not only design, it's very much about technique.
And techniques both modern and ancestral, right?
How things really works, and knowledge about history and new contemporary architecture. I think that's a great goal.
Yeah, thank you so much. So it's very much like opening up our eyes and looking at the city around us to care for it. There is a strong caring message about what we have, but also to learn, to continue learning and to adapt what we used to know, to rediscover it also in a sense, and use also innovative method to care for it, which hopefully architects in the room can take up the challenge. Paolo.
Yeah, the challenge, a call for action in a way, for planners, for architects, for investors, to be brave, take the risk of some unpredictability of the behavior of the building, of the designs that maybe must change during the works, of a more complex business case and more lines on more pages Excel file. Just take this risk with common sense, with the idea that there's a value in an identity point of view, in an environmental point of view in the existing building. And I think that if you are brave and take this risk, the reward is enormous. Is a value reward, is an economical reward, because at the end, a lot of people say it's more expensive to keep the building, but they can't put in that equation the more value that the building has at the end. And because it's not something that you can put a number on, but it's strong. It's strong because the people know the building, go there, and so just that, a call for action for doing this. It's more work. It's not obvious. We are not used to do that as we normally stick these to very important, historical buildings, but this can be done with almost every building. So be brave and do it.
This is also a very strong message. I hope you all hear it. Be brave, take action. And the fact that, taking risks brings rewards. So it's not just be brave and get burned, right? It's very much be brave because there is a lot of rewards. And what also is important there is the fact that indeed our economics model have put a number of externalities into it. So we don't speak about the planet, we don't speak about the people into our existing economic models. And that doesn't really make sense in the current world that we're facing. We need to reintegrate that. And as you say, not monetize, I don't like this term personally necessarily, but really bring back the different types of value that will come with taking care of our identity, of our sense of belonging, of the places that we live in and that are really making and shaping the lives that we can have, not only ourselves, but with others. And I think also in the challenge that you were saying, Paolo, there is something that I would add, is that, in architects sometimes, apologies to all architects, and the three of you are, I'm not, but sometimes you want to leave your mark on something. You want to do something new, but you can do something new on something that already exists. And this is also the challenge. It's not only necessarily something brand new. You can actually bring a lot of value, and your identity and the mark that you leave can be even stronger if it's combined with the identity and the mark of someone else. So yeah, this is my added challenge, lots of challenge, but brings rewards, and it will bring people along with you. It will also help people connect and belong to their city and really reappropriate themselves to this topic, which is all of the core of the work that you do. So I would like to say a big thank you to Tori from the city of Stockholm, Mestel from Le Pavillon and de l'Arsenal, and Paolo from the city of Torino. Thank you so much to all of your strong and powerful examples, message, work. Continue, please sign up. And I will call, thank you. Thank you so much. And I will call on stage now for a great other examples, my colleague Costanza De Stefani, who can tell us all about reinventing cities.
Cécile. And thanks for everybody that is still in the room with such a dense panel. So we're really addressing many relevant topics for the future of our cities. Actually, now we're moving to a panel that is strictly connected to the idea of reusing the existing buildings and assets. It's all about urban regeneration with a focus on Italy and as a starting point, using the Reinventing Cities initiative and really showing how Reinventing Cities is shaping and transforming urban regeneration in Italy and the paradigm. It's going to be a full Italian panel, and since we are in Venice, we thought it would be also nice to have a panel in Italian, so I will switch language now, and you are welcome for English speakers to use the QR code that was at the door. Thank you so much, and I'm gonna also move the slide so you can see who is joining the panel with me. Ancora una volta grazie di essere in sala, e prima di dare la parola ai relatori ci tengo a fare giusto una nota su che cos'è Reinventing City, soprattutto per chi nella sala non conoscesse questo programma. È un'iniziativa portata avanti da C40 ormai da molti anni, è un'iniziativa di grande successo. L'idea è quella di lanciare dei bandi per la rigenerazione urbana in tantissime città nel mondo, prendendo siti dismessi, aree sottoutilizzate e lavorando assieme a comuni come proprietari di aree, Agenzia del Demanio, FS Sistemi Urbani e tantissime entità in Italia e nel mondo, mettendo queste aree a bando e chiamando team multidisciplinari di progettisti, parlando di quella collaborazione che vedevamo nel panel di prima, a reinventare queste aree in chiave sostenibile e con progetti che siano zero carbon e inclusivi. Ormai Reinventing Cities è in 28 città a livello globale, da Chicago a Montreal a Madrid all'Italia. Abbiamo 5 città in Italia che hanno visto la partecipazione nel bando, da Milano, Bologna, Venezia, Roma e Palermo. Migliaia di architetti, progettisti, investitori, sviluppatori che hanno preso parte a questi bandi veramente per dare le loro idee e creare una trasformazione sul territorio. Abbiamo già oltre 40 progetti vincitori, che sono progetti faro, che ci spiegano come si può andare un po' più in là, anche a livello di standard ambientali. Vedo qua in sala alcuni dei progettisti che stanno portando avanti questi progetti già vincitori, per esempio a Madrid, uno degli edifici di legno lamellare più grande di Spagna. A Milano abbiamo il primo Zero Carbon Social Housing, quindi veramente dei progetti che ci dimostrano che si può fare una rigenerazione urbana sostenibile e andare un po' più là e portare l'asticella più in alto. Appunto sono 40 e di questi 12 dei progetti vincitori sono in Italia e abbiamo tantissimi bandi aperti, tra cui anche una collaborazione con l'Agenzia del Demanio. Ecco, quindi ci tengo a lasciare adesso la parola in primis al professor Tucci, che è direttore dell'area di progettazione ambientale e qualità della progettazione dell'Agenzia del Demanio. L'Agenzia del Demanio, pensate che gestisce oltre 44.000 beni pubblici sul territorio italiano, sparsi in tutto il territorio, e quindi è importantissimo avere una strategia anche innovativa, che adesso l'Agenzia sta portando avanti, di trasformazione e valorizzazione di questi beni. Anche attraverso la collaborazione con Reinventing Cities stanno lavorando con comuni e stanno facendo rete per chiamare anche il pubblico a reimmaginare queste aree con dei progetti innovativi. E quindi lascio la parola al professor Tucci.
La presentazione... Ah, era già pronta dopo, perfetto. Buongiorno a tutti, un grande piacere essere qui. Scusate l'italiano a chi non è italiano, ma come ha detto Costanza, ha deciso di fare questo panel in italiano, eccezione all'interno di questo bellissimo convegno. Prima di tutto consentitemi di tanto rallegrarmi di essere in questo meraviglioso luogo e di ringraziare per l'invito e per l'organizzazione gli organizzatori, Alain, Chartrier, che ho salutato, naturalmente Costanza De Stefani, è stata eccezionale. Vorrei anche ringraziare in particolare Francesca Moroni, che ha fatto un po' da tramite per tutta l'operazione, rapporti Agenzia del Demanio e C40 Cities, e tutti i direttori regionali dell'agenzia che sono presenti, numerosi. Noi abbiamo, parlo di agenzia, sono l'onore di essere il direttore dell'area, della progettazione ambientale e della qualità della progettazione, ma più in generale l'agenzia del Demanio, della quale vi porto i saluti del direttore generale Alessandro Dal Verme, ha da tempo, come probabilmente molti di voi sanno, intrapreso una via molto innovativa. L'obiettivo di questa breve, 5, 6, 7 minuti, quelli che mi si concedono, presentazione con le slide che scorrerò velocemente, è quello di, alla luce della partecipazione, devo dire entusiasmante, che sta avvenendo benissimo, dell'agenzia a Reinventing Cities, e quindi l'obiettivo è anche capire perché e come sta l'agenzia partecipando a Reinventing Cities promosso da C40, però all'interno, diciamo, di questa traccia, che è quello che ci vede uniti in questo momento e in questa sessione, secondo me c'è la necessità di chiarire qual è la visione più ampia in questo momento, per l'appunto innovativa, dell'agenzia, che ha la, se vogliamo usare delle parole chiave, la ambizione, sta cercando effettivamente di realizzarla, di operare una sorta di passaggio, un piccolo passaggio epocale, che è quello di mettere l'immobile pubblico al centro e al servizio delle politiche di rigenerazione, di riqualificazione, di rivitalizzazione, questa parola vitality linciana, insomma, che ci siamo dimenticati e che ogni tanto rispolveriamo, che peraltro sono promosse dalle realtà locali in maniera a volte molto, molto forte. Quindi mettersi al supporto di queste realtà e usare l'immobile pubblico per alimentare queste politiche. Permettetemi di, come diceva Costanza, ha detto uno degli elementi chiave, di inquadrare che cosa è l'agenzia oggi. Si potrebbe elencare per ore dei numeri, però ce ne sono alcuni invece che si possono dire in pochi secondi molto significativi. Il primo è la quantità di beni immobili, che significa edifici, ma significa anche aree. Per esempio, qui stiamo a Venezia, l'isola di San Giorgio è una di queste, cioè per capire la dimensione, sono 44.000 in tutta Italia, per un valore stimato ad oggi, si dice anche forse un pochino sottostimato, e quindi probabilmente anche di più, di 63 miliardi di euro. L'attività è distribuita su tutto il territorio nazionale, ovviamente c'è una direzione centrale, come tutti sanno, a Roma, ma soprattutto ci sono 17 direzioni regionali che coprono tutto il territorio italiano. Le persone impegnate a vario titolo sono tecnici, architetti, ingegneri, ma sono amministrativi, sono legali, eccetera, sono tante, sono più di 1400 distribuite in tutta Italia, e ci sono alcuni, non ve li leggo tutti questi dati sotto, però ci sono alcuni dati tra i vari che sono molto interessanti, perché fanno capire la voglia di fare dell'agenzia. C'è stato un aumento del 150% degli investimenti nel triennio 2021-2024 provenienti direttamente dal MEF, dal Ministero, con fondi del Ministero dell'Economia e delle Finanze, e più del raddoppio, più del 200% da fondi di altre pubbliche amministrazioni, quindi numeri molto significativi. Vi ho sottolineato la centralità anche in un certo senso e la significanza dei numeri, perché questi numeri significano, come vi dicevo prima, un impegno. C'è uno slogan che viene ricordato dalla direttrice stessa e che può essere utile per decodificare i numeri in termini invece di impegno che si riversa sulle città, e che è presente fortemente nella esperienza di Reinventing Cities, che è quello del passaggio dall'atteggiamento conservativo alla valorizzazione rigenerativa. Sono poche parole che contengono tutto. Fino a, come sappiamo bene, qualche anno fa c'era un atteggiamento di utilizzo, tutela, funzionalizzazione, rifunzionalizzazione, attenzione all'uso dell'edificio in sé, dell'immobile in sé, che naturalmente è la base imprescindibile, e quindi lo possiamo definire atteggiamento conservativo. Ma c'è adesso qualcosa di molto più sfidante, che è quello per l'appunto di prendere l'occasione dell'intervento di ogni, anzi della rete più che di ogni, della rete dell'infinita, immensa degli immobili pubblici, come occasione per l'appunto alimentare i processi rigenerativi, quindi non solo circoscritti a quel determinato intervento di immobile, ma che si possono riverberare sul contesto, e per contesto intendiamo a volte, data la dimensione di certi interventi, anche intere città. Ci sono 3 parole chiave che leggete, perché l'Agenzia del Demanio è un ente pubblico economico che si è dotato di un piano strategico industriale 2024-2027, e che è basato è articolato e strutturato su 3 parole chiave, che sono sostenibilità, digitalizzazione e innovazione. Il modo di muoversi per decodificare, quindi per porre in attuazione tutto questo è diciamo, caratterizzato dall'azione attraverso lo strumento Piani Città, un'azione di partenariato pubblico-privato fortemente incoraggiata e naturalmente la cosa più tradizionale che è quella dell'azione attraverso agreements and protocols con le pubbliche amministrazioni. I piani città sono lo strumento chiave, uno strumento innovativo che ha l'ambizione, e lo sta facendo perché sono stati firmati in questi ultimi 8 mesi ben 23 piani città in tutta Italia, ha l'ambizione di fare quello che vi dicevo prima, cioè di mettere in rete tutti gli immobili pubblici, non solo quelli statali, all'interno presenti in un ambito urbano, e in qualche modo programmare gli interventi a rete, a sistema, affinché questi possano alimentare i processi di rigenerazione urbana di quella determinata città. Ad oggi sono 23 quelli firmati, l'obiettivo è arrivare a 50 nel 2026. Il partenariato pubblico-privato è la premessa per arrivare poi all'oggetto anche di questo incontro, che è il Reinventing Cities. Noi abbiamo una straordinaria, abbiamo aderito come agenzia, come sappiamo bene, come sanno bene, con entusiasmo e con anche grande copartecipazione alla iniziativa Reinventing. C'è stata la quarta edizione lo scorso anno, lanciata se non ricordo male nel marzo del 2024, che vedeva inserite nelle 15, se non ricordo male, sì, 15 città in tutto il mondo, ben 5 città italiane, tutte diciamo, offerte dall'asset dell'Agenzia del Demanio. Rosicchio solo qualche secondo per ricordare che l'Agenzia del Demanio, come diciamo, ho detto anche all'inizio, gestisce il patrimonio dello Stato in termini di 44.000 beni, ma oltre quelli ha anche, attraverso la struttura per la progettazione, azione, viene cioè ingaggiata per i beni, ad esempio, comunali, tanto per dirne una molto importante. Nel Reinventing Cities scorso ci sono state 5 città, 3 delle quali hanno messo in campo, cioè l'agenzia ha messo in campo per quelle città beni statali, cioè Venezia, Bologna e Roma. Venezia ne ha messi addirittura 2, e di asset invece di proprietà comunale sono presenti nelle città di Milano e di Palermo. La fase di diciamo, ovviamente il tutto sotto la regia di C40 Cities, di sviluppo di questa prima edizione è agli sgoccioli, perché abbiamo la seconda fase in corso e a settembre diciamo, i risultati di questa fase, che ha visto decine di partecipanti per ogni luogo, e anche delle interessanti proposte che vedono la copartecipazione di gruppi di progettisti con per l'appunto stakeholder privati. E abbiamo, e qui concludo invece con altrettanto entusiasmo, forse anche di più se vogliamo, in corso la preparazione del nuovo Reinventing Cities, che verrà lanciato all'inizio del prossimo anno e per il quale c'è una piccola novità. Intanto allarghiamo, non ci accontentiamo più di 6 immobili presenti in 5 città, la allarghiamo, adesso forse ci limiteremo, ma insomma abbiamo l'intenzione di più che raddoppiare la presenza e la partecipazione, e poi concordemente con C40 abbiamo messo in campo in maniera sistemica 10 assi strategici, che adesso non voglio leggere, che stanno animando il nuovo bando. Vi lascio con quest'ultima slide per evocare il fatto che il lavoro in questo momento è orientato in qualche modo sognare un pochino, cioè è il momento di osare un pochino di più. Noi vogliamo di più facendo rete e lavorando insieme, e attraverso il perseguimento di questi assi e la grande partecipazione di questo concorso speriamo di poter dare una mano per rendere le nostre città molto più desiderabili di oggi. Grazie.
Grazie mille a Fabrizio Tucci, e anche noi siamo molto contenti di questa collaborazione e molto innovativa con l'Agenzia del Demanio e di vedere poi i risultati sul territorio. Allora invito gli altri relatori sul palco, inizio dall'assessore Laudani, Raffaele Laudani, assessore all'urbanistica di Comune di Bologna. Prego. Prego. E assessore alla rigenerazione urbana, prendi pure una sedia, del Comune di Palermo, Maurizio Carta. E Andrea Vecci, che invece è responsabile di impatto, comunicazione e sostenibilità di Redo, nonché vincitore di vari bandi di Reinventing Cities, come diciamo anche rappresentante del settore privato. Grazie mille. Beh, partirei, Assessore Laudani, da lei e dal Comune di Bologna, magari dandoci una visione un po' su qual è il quadro e la visione per la rigenerazione urbana della città e anche magari come le priorità climatiche e Reinventing Cities si inseriscono all'interno del quadro. Prego, se ha qualche slide.
Sì, allora intanto grazie, buongiorno a tutti e a tutti, è un piacere essere qui e in generale avere questi momenti di confronto con città operatori, ma in modo particolare con C40, con cui abbiamo in questi anni avviato una collaborazione per noi importante e strategica, anche per le ragioni che cercherò sinteticamente di dire. Noi abbiamo avviato il nostro mandato amministrativo 3 anni fa ormai, con l'obiettivo dal punto di vista urbanistico di in qualche modo dare un'accelerazione alla rigenerazione urbana, rimettendo in discussione anche quelle che erano state le strategie degli ultimi 15-20 anni della città, che prova a sintetizzare così. Si cercava in qualche modo di ascoltare il mercato e poi di provare ad adattare i piani per intercettare gli interessi del mercato. Questa cosa in una città come Bologna, che aveva un mercato, diciamo, delle costruzioni e delle rigenerazioni tendenzialmente portata ad interventi medio-piccoli, di fatto ha contribuito a tenere ferma la rigenerazione delle grandi aree dismesse. E quindi, volendo dare un impulso a queste aree, lì vedete una mappa dove sono sintetizzati i luoghi dismessi e sottoutilizzati della città, sono molti. E quindi abbiamo pensato che dovevamo un po' provare a cambiare il paradigma, che anche qui potrei sintetizzare così: dare delle vocazioni alle aree, innescare le trasformazioni con investimenti pubblici, approfittando degli investimenti legati al PNRR, e poi chiamare gli investitori privati a scommettere sulla città con progetti coerenti alle vocazioni che abbiamo dato. Questo lavoro di vocazioni l'abbiamo fatto attraverso 2 progetti bandiera, che sono quelli denominati Città della Conoscenza e Impronta Verde. La prima, la Città della Conoscenza, in modo particolare individua la Via della Conoscenza, un quadrante della città di circa 500 ettari lungo l'asse nord-ovest della città, che ha 2 peculiarità: il luogo in cui si concentrano i principali centri di ricerca e della formazione avanzata della città, ma anche alcune tra le principali grandi aree dismesse, ferroviarie o militari. Noi di fatto, sia per la nostra storia come città, ma anche per le trasformazioni recenti che ci hanno visto fare di Bologna negli ultimi anni ormai di fatto uno dei principali hub europei su intelligenza artificiale e supercalcolo, abbiamo pensato che la conoscenza possa essere la chiave per un ripensamento complessivo delle politiche della città e anche della politica industriale della città. E quindi la Via della Conoscenza è la strada attraverso la quale proviamo a informare, nel senso di dare forma a questo obiettivo. L'altro progetto bandiera è quello che abbiamo chiamato Impronta Verde, qui con un'immagine evocativa, l'idea di una mano verde sulla città, l'idea di costruire una nuova grande infrastruttura ecologica attorno a 6 parchi urbani, proprio per dare, come dire, un impulso alla trasformazione della città a partire da un principio, cioè garantire il diritto a tutte le cittadine e i cittadini di Bologna di poter raggiungere a piedi o in bicicletta in 10 minuti uno di questi 6 parchi urbani. E quindi è un lavoro soprattutto di infrastrutturazione, no? Più che la mano, sono le linee della mano di congiunzione che rendono poi effettivo l'obiettivo. In questa strategia la partecipazione al bando Reinventing Cities è stato decisivo, un po' per le ragioni che dicevo, è l'esemplificazione di questa strategia. Noi in modo particolare nella prima edizione abbiamo partecipato con 2 progetti, uno era quello della riqualificazione dell'ex scalo ferroviario Ravone, che abbiamo diviso in 2, il 50% lo abbiamo acquisito e lo rigeneriamo con risorse pubbliche, l'altra metà l'abbiamo candidato insieme ad FS Sistemi Urbani al bando Reinventing Cities. Per noi è stata, e chiudo, una scelta nuova, un cambio di paradigma molto importante, perché ci ha consentito da un lato di spingere, come dire, sul piano della qualità, delle richieste ambientali, la partecipazione ai progetti, ma era anche un modo per un riposizionamento a livello internazionale della città, far capire che Bologna può essere una destinazione per investimenti privati che uniscono appunto la possibilità di un ritorno economico per gli investitori privati, ma anche un impatto dal punto di vista ambientale e sociale sui progetti di rigenerazione.
Grazie mille Assessore Laudani per aver presentato questa visione molto integrata, no? Con il fil rouge della conoscenza e anche dell'impronta verde, e veramente Reinventing Cities, come appena detto, si inserisce proprio in questo quadro ed è uno strumento anche, no, per l'attuazione poi di questa visione. E passerei adesso all'assessore Carta per invece vedere un po', lato del Comune di Palermo, sì, prego, qual è un po' invece la visione strategica, anche chiamata Palermo più 20, di rigenerazione urbana o urbanogenesi della città, e come anche Reinventing City si inserisce in questo quadro. Prego, Assessore.
Sì, buongiorno a tutte e tutti, grazie Costanza di questa moderazione, compito difficilissimo perché siamo degli smodati per abitudine. E anche io ringrazio C40 Cities per questa iniziativa, per aver orchestrato questa straordinaria iniziativa. E mi piace ricordare, lo ricordo a me stesso e a tutti voi, che nella numerologia il numero 40 rappresenta le fasi di transizione, il viaggio dell'eroe, dove a un certo punto, dopo perigliose fatiche, attraverso o un intervento divino o una grande battaglia, ci si trasforma. E mi sembra un ottimo modo per ricordarci qual è l'entità della battaglia per città climaticamente più sostenibili che dobbiamo portare avanti. Venendo a Palermo. A Palermo stiamo attivando una strategia complessa, articolata, che non riguarda ovviamente soltanto il campo dell'urbanistica e della rigenerazione urbana come è naturale, ma riguarda, come vedete da queste immagini, intanto anche un riposizionamento di Palermo, della Sicilia, nell'ambito di un orizzonte mediterraneo, entro cui ci sentiamo anche parte della costruzione di una rete di pace e di collaborazione, quindi è un lavoro che guarda non soltanto alla dimensione locale, ma guarda anche alla dimensione del Mediterraneo e al rapporto con le città del sud. E poi questo termine che in qualche modo inseriamo per scardinare, se volete, alcune retoriche della rigenerazione urbana, dove sembra che urbano associato a rigenerazione sia soltanto un modo per riverniciare alcune eccessive tendenze alla rigenerazione urbana a base immobiliare. Allora l'inversione dei termini, urbanogenesi, ci permette di ricordarci che quello su cui noi stiamo lavorando è la produzione di nuova urbanità, la produzione di nuovo spazio urbano, ma soprattutto di nuove relazioni e di capacità di abitare. Lo stiamo facendo attraverso, vi faccio vedere alcune immagini molto sintetiche. Intanto vi presento la mia città, vi presento Palermo per chi non la dovesse conoscere, in questo rapporto poderosissimo tra mare e montagne, tra questa piana, ahimè, negli anni 70 depredata dalla espansione urbanistica incontrollata e anche guidata dagli interessi della mafia e dei grandi capitali, e che però oggi vuole riscoprire questo rapporto poderoso con il mare. Il mare è un elemento fondamentale non soltanto dell'identità della città, ma anche, riteniamo noi, della sua rinnovata prosperità. Vogliamo che dal mare si torni a produrre valore per la città di Palermo. 650.000 abitanti solo per la parte comunale urbana, 1,2 milioni nella città metropolitana, più di 2 milioni di abitanti temporanei. Da me sentirete sempre pochissimo la parola turisti, perché non solo l'ambizione della città è quella di far sì che il turismo sia un turismo sostenibile, ma in ogni caso, anche fossero soltanto degli abitanti di una giornata, per quella giornata sono abitanti. Io li devo guardare come tali, perché chiedono e anche pretendono servizi, sicurezza, bellezza, e non soltanto un safari come talvolta, ahimè, sembra che si venga a fare a Palermo. 23 chilometri di costa, quindi un vero e proprio cardo, un grande asse costiero tra città e mare, che è il nostro grande impegno. 80 milioni di euro già investiti nella ristrutturazione, nella messa in sicurezza e nella bonifica, 82 milioni di prossimo utilizzo, e complessivi 1,5 miliardi di investimenti da fondi europei, che ovviamente stressano le strutture comunali dal punto di vista della progettazione, e il più di 300 metri cubi, di 300.000 metri cubi di nuovi usi, nuovi futuri per il waterfront. Non so, 300 metri cubi, ovviamente sono 300.000 metri cubi. Qual è la strategia? La strategia è semplicissima. Allora, questo è lo schema del nostro master plan, che ha un sottotitolo: No more master plan. Ora, sembra una contraddizione, ma figuratevi se un siciliano e un palermitano non vive di contraddizioni. Allora, è un master plan perché non può che essere un piano di tipo regolativo, così ci impongono le norme e la legge, ma che rifiuta di essere un master plan esclusivamente regolativo, deterministico, come se ancora oggi le città potessero determinare spazi, numeri, corpi, desideri, investimenti e potenzialità. No, e quindi vive di una dimensione incrementale e adattiva. È un piano di tipo regolativo con una forte natura strategica, o se volete un piano strategico che comprende che ha bisogno della dimensione attuativa. E si chiama più 20 perché davanti a questa eccessiva invocazione nei confronti della fine della città, che forse non è più il modello più adeguato, che bisogna trovarne altre, la nostra risposta è che invece noi abbiamo bisogno di più città e non di meno città, ma abbiamo bisogno di una città più educativa, con una mobilità più sostenibile, con una capacità di accogliere più persone, con una capacità di essere più resiliente, con un pensiero climatico, e quindi è un Palermo Plus, con un orizzonte ventennale che è quello, ma lo sappiamo tutti, non lo devo dire, siamo tutti, diciamo, esperti, è l'orizzonte necessario, ma poi su questo tornerò alla fine, l'orizzonte necessario per poter fare quella transizione, per poter dare senso a quel numero 40 che ci dice che dobbiamo fare una transizione. Ci sono dei progetti specifici, ma credo che questi fanno parte del secondo giro, se non ricordo male, sì, perché ne parliamo fra un poco. Oppure se vuoi ne parlo adesso e poi non parlo più.
Una parola al volo su Arenella.
Allora, ovviamente, essendo, come vi ho detto, quel master plan è fatto invece un processo strategico incrementale e adattivo, il nostro approccio è quello di cominciare a realizzare prototipi, individuando alcune aree che sono coerenti col disegno generale, su cui esercitare alcune innovazioni di modalità. Abbiamo intercettato con grandissimo interesse ed entusiasmo non soltanto il piano città con il demanio che abbiamo siglato e che sta cominciando già a produrre degli effetti importanti. Abbiamo chiesto all'Agenzia del Demanio e alla loro struttura di progettazione di aiutarci in alcune progettazioni, e di contro noi con loro facciamo delle operazioni su immobili che sono nostri. Abbiamo intercettato C40 e Reinventing City, e 86.000 metri quadri e 210.000, mancano sempre le migliaia di metri cubi, sono stati messi a bando in Reinventing Cities. Con che cosa? Con una attenzione scalare alla stessa filosofia del nostro piano generale, del nostro master plan. Cioè anche in questa porzione di città i principi che animano il master plan della città verranno applicati. Quindi una porzione di città plus, incrementale, adattiva, senza una predeterminazione di usi se non alcuni grandi criteri, un rigoroso rispetto dei 10 principi climatici di Reinventing Cities e di Siforti, ma soprattutto, ed è la grande intuizione, la potenza di Reinventing Cities sulla base del primo esperimento di Reinventer Paris che ha inventato questa modalità, una capacità di realizzare un progetto di tale qualità e di tale convinzione che il progetto si accompagna con un investimento e con una capacità di richiederne il possesso. Tutto questo viene anche poi sintetizzato in alcuni elementi ed uno schema che lasciamo qui, poi casomai ne parliamo.
Grazie Assessore, è molto interessante anche il bando che siamo in piena fase di concorso su Ex Chimica Nella, perché lasciamo anche ai team multidisciplinari e al privato e agli architetti e ai progettisti lasciamo ideare e anche proporre anche in maniera aperta e flessibile gli usi per quest'area. E quindi la partecipazione, la collaborazione col privato, lo dicevamo già anche prima, sta alla base comunque di processi rigenerativi, anche per poi la messa a terra, no? Di queste visioni.
Sì,
e quindi
grazie.
ci tengo a lasciare ora la parola a Andrea Vecci, che con Redo e anche una cordata multidisciplinare e molto estesa ha vinto tanti progetti, 3 su Milano con i bandi Reinventing Cities, su un ex macello, su uno scalo, su un'altra area, e quindi magari se ci puoi dare un'idea di questi progetti e dell'impatto ambientale e sociale.
Sì, grazie. Innanzitutto 2 minuti li spendo per descrivere che cos'è Redo, chi è Redo. Redo è un asset manager che gestisce fondi di investimento immobiliare, è una società un po' particolare perché è una società benefit certificata B Corp, ovvero tutti noi, mentre progettiamo i fondi di investimento immobiliare, mentre li gestiamo, abbiamo la licenza da parte dei nostri azionisti di perseguire il profitto e perseguire finalità di beneficio comune nei confronti degli stakeholder. Quindi siamo uno dei rappresentanti di questa nuova stagione dell'impresa che porta avanti la stakeholder economy, quindi diciamo chi vi parla è molto interessato alla costruzione dell'interesse generale come modello di business. Giusto per farvi un piccolo elemento di storia, noi nasciamo con la vocazione di tentare di risolvere un po' il tema della casa in un contesto dove anche le norme e i fondi statali in Italia avevano smesso di produrla. Milano 15 anni fa si stava interrogando sul problema della casa, oggi continua ad essere molto, molto presente, quindi gestiamo circa 2 miliardi di euro in affordable housing e social housing, abbiamo in gestione 2.400 appartamenti principalmente a Milano. La media del reddito per nucleo è di 25.000 euro annui e diciamo così, il peso dell'affitto è del 25%. Ci siamo dati come obiettivo di non andare oltre il 30%. Questo è giusto per darvi un KPI che è quello dell'affordability. Rispetto alla crescita dei costi del mercato, abbiamo appena pubblicato il report di impatto dell'anno scorso, rispetto al mercato, lasciamo nelle tasche ogni anno delle famiglie che vivono in questi interventi di housing sociali gestiti 16 milioni di euro, quindi sono un beneficio diretto che diamo alle famiglie. Vi dico questo perché i Reinventing Cities e il loro approccio ci hanno aiutato a ragionare in termini di KPI, di impatto che sono ambientale, la decarbonizzazione, ma anche l'adattamento, ma anche il tema della resilienza, gli aspetti sociali, la qualità dello spazio pubblico, massimizzare con lo stesso euro maggiori effetti positivi in tantissimi domini, che non sono anche il ritorno degli investimenti, degli interessi per i nostri investitori. Ecco. E questo ci ha portato a costruire dei meccanismi di remunerazione variabile nei nostri fondi. I nostri fondi di investimento hanno un pezzo di remunerazione variabile che dipende dalla nostra capacità di, ad esempio, allineare la carbon footprint dei nostri edifici gestiti all'Accordo di Parigi, la capacità di produrre affordability e anche la nostra remunerazione variabile come persone, dall'amministratore delegato all'ultimo arrivato, ecco, è legata alla capacità di bilanciare gli interessi, perché se si riesce a mettere a terra questi progetti è proprio la capacità anche internamente di negoziare, lo sanno bene i progettisti che lavorano con noi, i tanti interessi. Parliamo di ex macello, sono 3 Reinventing Cities a Milano, sono 230.000 metri quadri, 600 milioni di euro di investimenti, 2.000 nuovi appartamenti, la principale in affordable housing, 1.000 posti letto per gli studenti. Quest'area in particolare è un'area molto interessante perché dà la possibilità di sperimentare diverse strategie come il riuso degli edifici. Abbiamo 30.000 metri quadri di edifici riusati, abbiamo quasi completato le bonifiche, le demolizioni, il 98% degli materiali sono stati tutti recuperati, quindi ricordiamoci anche qual è il contributo della circular economy, prima si parlava di clean construction, agli obiettivi di decarbonizzazione. Ci sarà un grande spazio pubblico, ci sarà una nuova università, ci saranno 1.200 appartamenti di housing sociale, studentati. Ecco, un nuovo brano della città pedonale aperta al pubblico, principalmente per i giovani. Stiamo anche sperimentando una felice stagione di usi temporanei e usi transitori che hanno consentito a oltre 500.000 di persone in questi ultimi 3 anni di entrare, scoprire il sito, entrare nelle aree diroccate, ma anche appropriarsene, e stiamo ragionando anche su come l'intrattenimento, che sia una domanda molto importante per diverse generazioni, riesca ad avere come dire, un elemento che ancori il progetto. Ecco, quindi questa era la prima cosa che volevo dirvi.
Grazie mille e complimenti per tutto il lavoro, è bellissimo vedere già l'inizio, no? della realizzazione, dell'impatto che poi questi progetti vincitori di Reinventing Cities hanno, e ci hai già parlato anche di come Reinventing ha cambiato un po' il modus operandi e vi ha dato anche dei KPI da utilizzare anche al di fuori del bando poi come modalità operativa. Siamo in leggero ritardo, quindi chiedo giusto qualche parola. Raccontaci, magari Assessore Laudani, dei progetti, 2 parole sui progetti di Bologna che verranno realizzati, quale sarà l'impatto sul territorio.
Sì, noi abbiamo partecipato a 2 edizioni di Reinventing Cities. Nella prima edizione abbiamo partecipato con 2 progetti, uno lo facevo prima riferimento, è l'ex scalo ferroviario del Ravone, che si è concluso. Vedo fra l'altro poi per entrambi i progetti sono qui i team che hanno vinto. Lì si trattava di una sfida particolare: da un lato, dicevo, un tassello fondamentale dei 2 progetti bandiera, dall'altro un tema di trasformazione di un'area complicata, un'area ferroviaria, ma che significa anche il superamento di una cesura fisica, perché l'area si trova tra i 2 lati della ferrovia, con un progetto misto, con una forte attenzione agli aspetti abitativi e ovviamente a tutti gli aspetti di sostenibilità ambientale. Il secondo progetto della prima edizione è il palazzo dell'ex aiuto materno. Qui la particolarità è quella di un palazzo storico vincolato in pieno centro storico, e quindi da questo punto di vista la sfida è quella di come conciliare la tutela del patrimonio storico architettonico con le sfide di tipo ambientale con cui ci vogliamo confrontare, che nei centri storici sono particolarmente evidenti, perché in termini di isole di calore, di temperatura e così via sono più forti nel centro storico che in altre aree della città di Bologna. Per quanto riguarda il terzo progetto, che è frutto del bando attualmente in corso, è frutto di una collaborazione con l'Agenzia del Demanio, l'ex caserma Perotti. Dico velocemente due aspetti di particolare interesse per noi. Da un lato ha a che fare con l'obiettivo, 30% del residenziale saranno alloggi per studenti a prezzi calmierati, che per una città come Bologna, in modo particolare per una città che vuole fare della conoscenza il cuore, è decisivo se vogliamo continuare ad essere attrattivi, ma attrattivi in modo inclusivo. L'altro aspetto è che l'integrazione con un progetto di riqualificazione di un'altra parte dell'ex caserma Perotti già in corso, che vedrà la collocazione della sede regionale dell'Agenzia delle Entrate, e quindi anche in questo caso come tenere insieme due progetti che sono in qualche modo autonomi, indipendenti, ma che stanno insieme in un'area della città particolarmente importante.
Quindi anche come metterli a sistema e vediamo anche come Reinventing sta poi rispondendo anche a dei bisogni della città, no? Al bisogno abitativo e a tante necessità di diverse aree. Passo, scusa, perché dobbiamo assolutamente andare in chiusura. Giusto un'ultima parola a Maurizio, un messaggio: come Reinventing sta diventando un modello anche per Palermo, oltre al bando su Arenella.
Allora, intanto siamo pronti a partecipare alla nuova edizione con l'asticella ancora più alzata. Poi vorremmo anche lanciare una sorta di Reinventing Cities Light, cioè utilizzando criteri e approcci, ma diciamo senza la corposità del concorso. E poi, se mi permettete, 3 sintetiche lezioni che abbiamo imparato in questa occasione e che stiamo mettendo a base delle nostre strategie. La prima è quello di pensare con il pensiero dei costruttori di cattedrali medievali. Sapendo di non poter vedere finita la propria cattedrale, non per questo non la progettavano come la più bella cattedrale del mondo, perché sapevano che poi una comunità l'avrebbe realizzata quotidianamente. Secondo elemento: agire con la mente dello stormo. Lo stormo è una figura importante perché è una comunità di individui, non è una comunità di elementi astratti, e quindi l'individuo si riconosce nello stormo, si sente sicuro, però agisce in maniera molto più forte e completa. Terzo, dobbiamo tornare a progettare spazi con la genialità degli invertebrati. Ce lo diceva Giancarlo De Carlo: è l'invertebrato la forma più intelligente dell'animale, perché è capace di adattarsi e adattare. E allora noi dobbiamo tornare ad avere spazi che si adattino e che possano essere adattati da chi li vive.
Giustissimo, grazie. Assessore Carta, Andrea, un ultimo messaggio.
Lezioni apprese: noi stiamo continuando a fare qualsiasi altro progetto con l'approccio di Reinventing Cities, quindi abbiamo elaborato linee guida per la progettazione e la costruzione allineata alla tassonomia europea degli investimenti sostenibili per climate change mitigation, e stiamo diciamo così, formando i progettisti e le aziende di costruzione che lavorano con noi per continuare a produrre in questo modo, indipendentemente da Reinventing Cities. Un altro tema molto importante sono queste tonnellate di CO2 che, se le quotiamo a 105 euro a tonnellata, rischiano di diventare 8.000 euro per ciascuno degli abitanti dei Reinventing Cities. Quindi la grossa sfida è come rendere giusta questa transizione, e dobbiamo assolutamente lavorare su Scope 3, e quindi qui c'è il messaggio per C40, che oltre a Urbanism e Architecture bisogna parlare di Governance, perché in Scope 3 c'è per forza il coinvolgimento degli abitanti, degli utenti. Noi lo stiamo già facendo, abbiamo 150 famiglie che stanno mettendo in condivisione le lavatrici per lavorare sulla flessibilità energetica di distretto. Stiamo portando delle nuove infrastrutture energetiche all'interno dei Reinventing Cities che superano la capacità che ha il sistema pubblico di teleriscaldamento, avendo già la contrattualizzazione dell'energia green a basso costo per tutti i futuri abitanti. Ecco, vogliamo che questi sistemi di monitoraggio che Reinventing Cities hanno e che noi abbiamo come dire, replicato dappertutto, possano diventare la regola con cui nel lungo periodo la città riesca a valutare le performance di questi contratti che sono per forza performance based. Bisogna ragionare in quest'ottica.
Grazie mille Andrea Vecci. Questa tipologia di rigenerazione urbana, urbanogenesi, deve diventare la nuova regola attraverso questi processi partecipativi e collaborativi. Vi ringrazio, purtroppo potremmo continuare a parlare ma abbiamo finito il tempo. Grazie. We are moving to the next panel and we are switching back to English. And I will invite, actually the topic is very aligned because we will continue talking about public-private collaboration for urban regeneration. And I introduce Lynn Doody, European Director for Cities, Planning and Design, Europe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we're going to take a slightly deeper dive into collaboration with the private sector now. And I will call on our first speaker right away, I think, Camilla Bier, who is the Executive Director of the Technical and Environmental Administration from Copenhagen. So thank you very much.
Let's see if this works. Yes, everybody can hear me. So thank you for the invitation. And thanks to C40 for the important work that you do. It's amazing to be surrounded by history in this beautiful city of Venice. And I'm very honored to be here and represent Copenhagen. I will talk about the transformation, and maybe I should, yes. I will talk about the transformation of the local district of Nordhavn, meaning the northern port, from old industrial freeport to new residential neighborhood. But first, a few numbers about Copenhagen, where I myself lived for more than 30 years now. I'm older than 30 years, but a small capital, but growing in numbers, which leads to massive pressure on the housing market and rising house prices, increasing traffic congestion and pressure on public institutions. At the same time, we aim at reducing carbon emissions through our climate strategy. Note that we are a young city, average age 37 years old, and with 600 new inhabitants per month coming to Copenhagen. Nordhavn is the biggest new urban development in Copenhagen. The planning of the area started already in the early 2000s and will continue for the next 15 to 20 years. When finished, it will make space for 40,000 inhabitants and 40,000 workplaces. But the history of the area dates back in time. The area has been Copenhagen's biggest industrial port. For many, many years, the port was foremost a workplace for the workers at the fish market, the container terminal, cruise port, and other maritime activities. Not a residential area and no access for any visitors. When transforming the area, it has been important to make a new, attractive neighborhood, but still keeping constructions and traces from the historic past. We have kept all the former warehouses and silos of the area in order to keep the strong maritime identity of the district. In the back of the picture, you see the former grain silo that has now been transformed into an apartment block. In the front is old administrative buildings that have been renovated and integrated in the new city district. The silo, transformed by Kobe architects, made space for 39 apartments of various sizes. Almost 3,000 cubic meters of concrete was reused, meaning 500 tons of embedded CO2. Instead of tearing down and building new, the project has added identity and character to the district and saved a lot of emissions in the process. We have learned a lot from this example, which will impact the way we look at transformations in the future. The building has one of Copenhagen's most expensive apartments until recently. Interaction between old silos in Nordhavn and new modern buildings in Nordhavn gives an interesting skyline to Nordhavn and gives a sense of industrial history and depth of time to the district. The different mix of variation of scale of tall silos and lower residential buildings adds variety and surprises to the maritime district. The transformation has also proved to be one of the most popular projects in this district. People want to live here, so it is also a good business case, meaning that sustainability, aesthetics, and business have gone hand in hand. Making the city accessible and reachable for all is also a way of planning a city in balance. Investments in biking, walking paths, and public transport helps make neighborhoods more accessible, safe and adaptable for all, and something that has shaped Copenhagen's mobility for years. In Nordhavn, we have been able to design mobility based on the metro line as a driver for the urban development. In Nordhavn, there will always be at most a 6-minute walk to a metro stop. Add bike tracks and pedestrian-friendly areas with limited car access, and you have a sustainable urban district high on urban life with easy access to groceries, healthcare, schools, and parks. The model supports Copenhagen's climate goals by reducing car dependency, cutting emissions, and improving air quality. Shorter commutes also mean more free time and better mental and physical health. Copenhagen has for many years been influenced by the urban philosophy of urbanist and architect Professor Jan Gehl. It means that urban life is a top priority when we do planning, and my number one advice when shaping city spaces, and I have to click, no. Consider urban life before urban space, and urban space before buildings. It is a public destination for the whole city. We aim for a mixed city and mixed functions. Within reach, retail, cafes, restaurants, social spaces, green spaces, public access to water, a recreational space where people use the water actively, for example, for kayaking and for small boats. Edge zones are our approach to integrating the building's private sphere to public space. This contributes to city life and urban space with a city for people. It supports life at eye level, safety, activity, and community. The new district has also given us the possibility of testing new energy infrastructure. The so-called Energy Lab was a collaboration between a broad circle of stakeholders: the city, the Danish Technical University, and energy consumers and providers testing energy infrastructures and smart components of the future. It has given valuable information on, for example, how to work with flexible heating and electric heat pumps in our future energy mix. High quality architecture and green and climate-friendly planning has been a key for the successful transformation of Nordhavn. In Copenhagen, we have an architecture policy that guides our way of working with aesthetics and sustainable challenges in the city. We always need to take the site-specific history into consideration when we build new. We need to look at the needs of people, and we must take climate and climate changes into consideration when we build. Nordhavn is a good example of how we succeeded. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Oh. Okay. That's an important piece of paper. Thank you very much, Camilla. And now we're going to hear from Jesse Shapins from Urban Partners, who's also going to talk about Copenhagen, but talk more about the private investment side of it. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic to be here with you today, and it's wonderful to be following the city of Copenhagen to talk about the city that I've recently adopted as an American moving there 3 years ago. And I might not look the classic real estate investor, but that is the role I'm going to play to represent sort of the investor lens on this topic of urban regeneration in cities. So I do work for a private investment firm, Urban Partners. We're headquartered in Copenhagen. We manage about 21 billion euros of capital from many different capital owners, many pension funds from around the world, invest in cities and are strong partners with C40 cities because we really share the agenda of green and thriving neighborhoods and how to work, and we believe that kind of climate action can lead to good business and returns. But if we look at sort of our genesis in a way, I moved to Copenhagen 3 years ago. Camilla, you said you've lived there for 30 years. One of the things I find striking, and it's strange, is the American to get up on the stage and tell this story, but most people don't know that Copenhagen has not always been the city that you just described. Of course, you described a story of a Freeport transforming. People know Copenhagen as that, and the story of the world's most livable city, pictures like this, people swimming in the harbor, walking on Skolgo, all this amazing quality of life. It was even recently named the world's happiest city. Many times we've had this sort of accolade, but it really was not always the case. And I think this is important to recognize because it helps us understand that urban change is possible. This was what Copenhagen 30 years ago looked like in terms of its population chart. So significant population decline and a massive, massive crisis effectively in the early 90s because of that. So you had a huge unemployment rate, you had a growing elderly population, shrinking tax base, and effectively on the verge of bankruptcy. Again, people typically don't think of Copenhagen as a city that had a crisis not totally dissimilar from a city like New York City. And again, I bring this up because it's an example of how you can really have systemic change within a city, within one generation. This is a billboard from the 90s that basically said the cheapest property in all of Denmark is in the harbor of Copenhagen. You just told us that now the most expensive property in all of Denmark is in the harbor of Copenhagen. So again, I think in a period of time in the world that we are today where we can get a little beleaguered, frankly, I can get a little beleaguered, it's valuable to look at a case study and see that it is possible that significant bold action from government, municipality, private sector can truly transform a place. And we've played a role in that. So as a private investor and developer, we've been a partner to the municipality, to the land development company, to social housing companies in the cities to really play a role in this transformation. And I'll talk a little bit especially about North Harbor and the Jan Bindebyen projects, though Tingberg is also quite interesting. It's a social housing area where we've actively worked to bring new residents in existing community to really take a community and bring it to a new level. But this is another lens on Nordhavn. We just heard all the great things that the city has done to kind of spearhead this area's transformation, but these are pictures actually only 10 years apart. Again, the speed of that transformation, I think, is remarkable, and the quality of that. And a key role that we then played, I think, to make a great neighborhood, as you said, is about sort of the urban life. One of the biggest challenges in new developments is that they're totally boring. Let's be honest. That's often what happens. And we saw that as a critical issue for commercial viability. If you have neighborhoods where people walk around, where there's small businesses, where there's urban life, they are more commercially successful neighborhoods. But in order to do that, you can't just have every ground floor space typically sort of managed on its own. What we did was actually a joint venture with the public land development company to buy and organize all of the ground floor spaces as one unit. So it didn't matter who owned the property above. There was one group that owned all the ground floors that allowed us to say, bring in a small bicycle repair shop, a bookstore, but also grocery stores, also design stores. And it's really worked to give a different level of vibrancy in the area. And on sustainability, we've also been building in the area many of the different buildings, and now under construction is Denmark's tallest timber building, which also, even though it has slightly higher costs on some of the elements, is achieving really strong commercial returns because of the premium that people place on the quality of the building. And so again, talking about the investor perspective, if you look at Nordhavn, before this was a Freeport. 10 years ago, you couldn't have even had it in a commercial real estate chart, comparing it with the center of Copenhagen and other areas. Now, in aggregate, it has the highest residential and commercial rents in the entire city. And again, from an investor perspective, this is what you want to see. You want to see that you put money in and you get something of this level of performance. But we've also done a lot of analysis to look at sort of what has made that possible? And I think what's exciting about the Nordhavn example is, of course, there's water, but there's this other neighborhood, Suhavn in Copenhagen, also on the water. Suhavn, if you saw in that last chart, was at the bottom in terms of rents, in terms of new area developments. So it is possible to develop a new neighborhood on the water and not truly create a vibrant, beautiful, exciting place. Karlsbergbun's another area using historic buildings, quite nice new development, but has some interesting qualities. The average block size is dramatically larger. The number of intersections is way, way lower. So it's this kind of more blocky, chunky area, and frankly, doesn't have the same level of vibrancy. And I think the point here is that you can actually quantify the way that you can do good urban planning and design, and that actually has correlations to commercial performance. So as investors, we care about the policies of architecture, the approaches to climate action, the approaches to quality, because we think it leads to better returns. And it's of course not returns just for us. I think in these types of public-private partnerships, it matters that there's significant income that is being generated for the city in terms of the overall benefits of these projects. So the economic impact is also tremendous. And so one other project I wanted to share with you is the Railway District. So this is a new project, it's still in the zoning phase, but this is taking the former freight rail yards in the center of the city and turning it into a green and thriving neighborhood. So it's been part of this program with C40 Cities on how to really integrate a holistic approach to the environmental and the social in neighborhood development. In this project, I think what's a little different than Nordhavn, when Nordhavn was started, the priority around, say, housing affordability and social housing wasn't at the same level that it is in the city today. I think it's probably fair to say. I see you nodding, so that makes me feel comfortable. It is obviously a huge priority in the city today. And so this neighborhood, a huge priority is how do you really build a mix, and how do you actually integrate social housing? How do you integrate mixed income housing of different types, and do that with also schools, parks, ground floor spaces? So this project, I think, represents now how that can also be viable from an investor perspective. We brought together our own investment funds with Novo Holdings and also the industrial pension funds of Denmark. And as far as the topic of renovation, we heard a little bit earlier, and I love the comments from the man from Turin that's walking out right now, but I'm sure he's got a great call, but is that you can take these great buildings and they create incredible energy if you take the risk to turn them into something special. And maybe you think it costs a little more money in your pro forma, but the value, if you do it well, is extraordinary. And that's our belief here. The old rail customs house that sits in the center of this neighborhood will be the long-term heart of the neighborhood. You can see that's what it is today, is the upper right diagram, and the bottom right is when the neighborhood gets built around it. And rather than wait until the very end, what we've done is already start to bring the space to life with the types of uses in community that we think will make that such a vibrant and attractive location. So these are pictures from the outside, from the inside, communal dinners that we host every week, large public events, different events for different programs that the public can participate in, different associations that run these, but also engaging in the planning process and having dialogue about the future area, saunas, roller dancing, so many different activities. And I think if you step back, some of the key learnings then, and this bridges to some of the things that Leanne will share, is just the public-private partnership can work if you have real co-responsibility, if there's a sense of a shared vision and purpose, if the public sector in particular can provide the long-term strategic planning, so the kind of risk profile is different and you have more confidence in understanding that infrastructure will be delivered and new areas will be developed, but also constantly learning. I think one of the things that Copenhagen does really well is not just get stuck in the past, but continuously challenge itself to try new things. And I think what matters here is we've talked about Copenhagen, but we're in a conversation about the future of European cities. And I think what matters is how do we actually take some of these learnings, some of these principles, and apply them not just in Copenhagen, but in other cities, and create that future that we want. And to end, I thought I just added this last week to this material, but is a survey that was done at a major gathering of institutional investors last week. This was a live survey. These are all the largest global pension funds and investors, and they were asked the question of have they made different decisions about their real estate investment allocations since the beginning of the year when the new president came into the US administration. A couple of them, 24, said no changes. A couple of them said, you know what, I'm going to put more money into the US. A couple of them said less US, a little more Asia. The vast, vast, vast majority said, I will do less US and invest more in Europe. So there's an enormous opportunity that we have now to channel this institutional investment to better neighborhoods, and there's a real opportunity to use this to achieve the type of objectives we're talking about here today. And with that, I'll pass it back to Leanne.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jesse. So I am going to just briefly introduce the research project that we are working on with C40 and Urban Partners, which is all about drawing out those lessons from successful examples of green and thriving neighborhoods that have also been commercially successful, and drawing out those lessons for investors, for developers, and for city leaders, so that they can take advantage, hopefully, of all this potential investment. So just briefly, before I begin, just quickly for those of you who don't know Arup, and what do we know about urban regeneration? We are a global collective of designers, engineers, planners, economists, many other things. I think we are about 18,500 people, 94 offices, 34 countries, and we're deeply involved in regeneration projects in Europe in particular, across the 10 countries where we have offices. So we're very, very excited to be part of this research. But moving on, I think I'm going to talk a little bit in the next few minutes. I'm just going to outline some of the drivers for brownfield regeneration in Europe at the moment and why there is such an opportunity, and then talk about the need for brownfield. And then I'll talk a little bit about the research based on that. And we have heard a lot about regeneration today, and we've just heard about all the work in Copenhagen. But I guess, one of the reasons that brownfield regeneration is so important is that we are an even more urbanizing continent than we were before. 83% of people in Europe will be living in urban areas by 2050. We're also getting older, so I think about 1 in 3 Europeans, so that's about 29%, will be over the age of 65 by 2050. So the profile of housing and the profile of our needs for our urban spaces is changing. Meanwhile, the number of people per dwelling is also reducing. So we have many more households with fewer people in them, with older people in them. So again, what we need from our urban spaces and from our housing is also changing rapidly. And we have a housing crisis, and we'll hear more about that from Julia in the next session. But rents have been rising, house prices have been rising rapidly, which is this affordability crisis affects young people in particular, and is precipitating also many sort of political crises around Europe. So that is something that we absolutely need to build more housing. We need to renovate more housing to try and address these issues. Compact development. So again, there is a goal in Europe for no net land take by 2050. And in 6 years between 2012 and 2018, we actually used about 3,500 square kilometers for land and for building. And that is about, if you imagine the size of Venice, including the lagoon, including the space on the mainland, that's about 7.5 Venices. So it's a large area which we need to now reduce to nothing, or to trade off by 2050. We've heard a lot about compact development already today and the benefits of it. And I guess some of the benefits include, reducing the amount of emissions from construction. And so in terms of, the building on existing brownfield land within cities, which already have good services, and using buildings we already have, we could reduce, I think, our carbon emissions by almost 50%. And I guess in terms of finance, so we have heard about the opportunities. We also hear a lot about the need for finance. And there was an EIB report recently which said that we need financing to the value of 15 trillion by 2040 to bridge the infrastructure gap. But meanwhile, there's also an opportunity to generate revenue and to attract investment into our cities by setting up our regeneration projects in the right way. And that's what we are looking at. So I think the opportunity then is really around creating demand for investment. So by using brownfield land to create value in the ways that we have just heard from Copenhagen in particular, we can create opportunities for investment and opportunities for private investors to come and to co-develop and co-create spaces with us, if we do it in the correct way, along the green and thriving neighborhood principles. So our research project is really that. It's really to look at how can we take the green and thriving neighborhood principles in places that have been successful. So looking at London, looking at Copenhagen, and looking at Milan. Clearly, these are complicated stories as well, so there's plenty of learning, I think, from the things that have gone well and the things that perhaps have not gone so well about some of these developments. But looking at then how can long-term value be created. All these projects are projects that have been running for a long time, developed over a long time, and will persist for a long time. So there has been value created all along the way, all along the development life cycle. So part of the work is to take a deep dive into the financials and the commercial viability of those projects, along with the impacts, the social and environmental and climate impacts, and really look at, to really make that case. So just very briefly, in terms of some of the early insights that are coming, I think we have heard some of them already today. So certainly long-term planning is important, and being able to provide certainty or some kind of uncertainty is important, and that can help attract patient capital and long-term returns, as Jesse and Camilla have just said. The second thing is that finding opportunities to use public investment to de-risk projects is important. And we've heard already about Paris and using the metro line and thinking about 15-minute neighborhoods and thinking about development around those station nodes. The Olympics have been used in a number of cities, not least London, to unlock investment. Investment in public transport is a key lever to increase the investability of places. So thinking about those opportunities. And I guess the third one is courageous leadership, and we heard that already from our colleague in Torino, that the idea of taking a risk and being able to manage those risks and manage those uncertainties and do it anyway. And my final slide is really just the timeline. Yes. We already did a workshop in MIPIM. We are presenting just teasing this research here. We will have a draft paper at London Climate Action Week for any of you who can join us there, and then we will be launching the paper in September. But I guess as a call to action, we're very interested in hearing from you on your views or your thoughts or any success stories or lessons learned. And so please reach out to C40 and they can put us in touch with us. So thank you very much.
Yes, that's it. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Julia Lopez Ventura. I'm the director for Europe at C40, and I'm responsible for the last session today. So I wanted to start by thanking you for having made it to this moment. It's been, fantastic. You're the brave ones, you know it. Or as they say it, the last will be the first. Fantastic. And to conclude the last session of today, we have chosen quite a complex topic, housing, that has many angles. And it's not a coincidence that we have chosen to close with this topic. Cities, mayors, deputy mayors, like the ones that you have heard from today, are living and governing in difficult geopolitical times and moments that are also deeply affecting Europe, from political polarization to a situation of interlinked crisis. Of course, all of us remember, or do not want to, but still it's very present in our lives, the COVID crisis, that together with a deep economic cost of living crisis that led many of residents in our cities under energy poverty, so a deep energy crisis created or exacerbated by the tense wars in Ukraine, has led to a very complicated, challenging moment for our cities, with many residents really struggling to make ends meet. On top of this, as many of the panelists have mentioned today, and Lane being the last one in her past speech, right now we have many residents who are really struggling to pay the rents and who cannot access affordable housing. And this is very challenging for cities, because citizens are really struggling to live where jobs, families, and their lives are. What is the role of cities in all of this? This is what we would like to discuss today. But also, how can cities and officials, deputy mayors that we will hear from today, help identify solutions, possible solutions, more than one, particularly in this challenging topic, that can help both address the housing crisis and the climate crisis. Therefore, today we will be speaking with three panelists that I will introduce in a moment about the housing shortages, rising rents, and also how to simultaneously work to meet climate targets. Without further ado, I would like to invite the three panelists today, starting with Filippo Rosetta, Deputy Mayor for Housing in Lisbon. Paola Mamoli, who is the Head of Communication Task Force on Affordable Housing from the European Commission. Welcome, nice to meet you too. And finally, Jules Pipe, Deputy Mayor for Planning, Regeneration and Skills of the City of London. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. You have three microphones, hopefully. I will start with you, Filippa. This is not an easy topic to discuss. Lisbon is a very attractive city, as we have heard from your presentation, that has, like many other cities, like the ones present here today, been facing a deep housing affordability crisis. What measures is the Lisbon Municipality Housing Charter promoting to ensure the right to housing, which is a very interesting concept, and meet at the same time sustainability criteria?
Well, first, thank you for being here, and thank you for inviting me. It's a very pleasant morning. But if you don't remember anything else that I say, remember this. We are using the housing crisis to accelerate climate change. So it's the other way around. We don't need to compromise. We can be using it to accelerate the climate agenda, and that's what we're doing in Lisbon. So what is the problem? Everybody knows the problem. Housing costs rose much higher than salaries. So our crisis derives from the fact that we're not only trying to help the very poor, but also the middle class, who's really striving to pay rent. And so we have a much broader group to reach. And so what did we do? We approved the Housing Charter, which is a plan for the next 10 years. It's a very programmed, detailed plan with numbers, goals that we want to meet. And we are doing three things in this plan. We are increasing supply of housing, we are improving accessibility, and we are increasing supply of land to build housing. So these three things we're doing in our plan. And when we say that we are increasing the supply of housing, it's mainly really the City Hall. We have a bold plan to reach something like 9,200 units by 2027. And we are actually in construction right now. The City Hall is all in construction. So it's really not a strategy, it's not an idea, it's not a beautiful PowerPoint, it's really on-site construction. And we're gonna reach 9,200 units in the following way. We have about 7,500 renovations and 1,700 new units. So it's mostly renovation. Renovation of buildings that were from the past century and had very poor conditions, very poor living conditions. So we have like a renovation wave mostly in our public housing. This is all in public housing and public land and public money. So we are renovating all our stock and just with thermal efficiency measures. And people are saying, I live much better now. I'm much more comfortable. So this is as simple as that. And what's beautiful about this is that we really get the most poor people to understand the climate agenda very well. They're spending less to heat the houses in the winter. They're feeling more comfortable because of our renovation wave. So the revolution, change, is coming from below, from the poorest neighborhoods, from the public neighborhoods. And it's going to reach all the new units that are also being built and are going to be much more efficient than current housing. Because our goals, our efficiency goals, are 20% higher than regulation, normal regulation. So it's a very ambitious plan in terms of energy efficiency. This obviously is being supported half by the European funds, the new Next Generation EU, so that's excellent. So our plan is to reach about 500 million euros of investment. And I think we're going to do that, hopefully, if all goes well. So this is increasing the supply. But we also want to increase access. How do we do this? We help the city, the people in the city pay the rent, especially the middle class. We have a program that helps people pay the rent. So they stay where they are. We don't have to build anything. That's as efficient as you get. You don't have to build anything. They live where they are. They stay where they are. We pay part of the rent. And hence, the house becomes affordable. There are limits to the incomes, obviously, and limits to the rents. But we're reaching more than 1,200 households this way. We started this when the inflation rose because of the Ukrainian war, and people were having a very hard time keeping their homes. So we had a very ambitious plan to say, anyone who needs this, the City Hall will give. And we've been able so far to do this. Every single family that has asked within the income limits, the City Hall has supported. So nobody is left out. So it's a policy that reaches the entire group of people. Just this is improving access. And the last and final action is to have more land available for affordable housing. And here is where we need partnerships, because we're not going to be building much more. We're having a very strong boost from the funds. We're not going to have more money to build. And the City Hall of Lisbon owns a lot of land for historic reasons, brownfield redevelopment land. So what we are trying to do here is just to have a lot of urban plans ready to then have partnerships come and have risk-free, hence because all the plans are going to be approved, and then help us build the rest of the city. So far, we've already launched the cooperative competitions, a cooperative where the City Hall gives out the land for 90 years. The cooperative comes and builds, so they have the house for the cost of the construction. And that's been the first cooperative in 25 years in Lisbon. There were no cooperatives for the past 25 years. So we kind of are reinventing the cooperative movement in Lisbon. And that's the next chapter. So we just started, but we've already have at least one cooperative out there, and we're quite happy with it.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Filippa. I particularly like that you have linked the word revolution with the right to housing in Lisbon, and that you said that this revolution needs to start from the ground, the most vulnerable. The charter looks very ambitious and promising. What are the main challenges that you're facing to implement it?
So I think it is very ambitious, but it's actually in construction. So it's not a plan, as I keep on saying. We have about 5,000 units in construction, either in renovation or in building. So it is ambitious, but we've been elected 3 years ago with Mayor Carlos Moedas, and we have a very focused plan. We really want to get things done. So just to plan that it's not really just an ambition, and we had the massive opportunity with the European funds. And I think the most challenging things that we faced, one is bureaucracy, but we're also facing that. Just like erasing a lot of unnecessary laws, and that's very important. It has nothing to do with climate. It just, Portugal has a lot of bureaucracy. I'm not quite sure if you share this problem, but we are doing this, just all the necessary laws. And then, of course, the next chapter is really access to funding for these partnerships. And I think that's the next challenge that we have for what we want to do after. And that's about 4,000 units in front of us. So with the cooperative movement is now getting funded by normal banks. We were not able to get support from the European Bank, which is a shame, because it could be an important support so that the European Bank could help cooperative movements, because it's a non-profit housing. So that's, I think, our main challenge to get the next chapter done is really financing non-profit housing, because we can provide the land. The City Hall is ready to provide the land. We need somebody to help cooperatives, non-profit housing associations to build, so that people get a home for the cost of construction. And sometimes financing is hard for this. So I think the European Bank could be a big help.
Thank you, Philippa. You meant the European Investment Bank?
Yes.
I see Paola is taking notes of this. Let me go to Jules to talk about the London case. How is your city delivering on the current commitment from London's plan, the current ambition to meet the challenges of both housing and environment?
Well, the London plan has always been something of an extraordinary document in its breadth. It doesn't concentrate on individual land uses. Yeah, good. Can you hear me? Great. It doesn't map out individual land uses. We leave that to the 33 boroughs that make up London. It's kind of a strategic document that covers the whole kind of themes of development, and it's a strategic framework. Covers everything from heritage through to transport, and crucially, it's the mayor's main way in which he can deliver all his policies, by taking all the spatial elements out of all the other policies, not repeating them, but taking the spatial angle and then working that into the plan. And so in terms of climate change and delivering housing, this document is it has more influence than simply budgets, because we don't hold the kind of budgets that could make the kind of influence that putting these policies in place can have. And in terms of climate change, we've seen huge reductions in greenhouse gas emissions from building, both in commercial and, crucially, in housing. And we have seen huge increases in the amount of affordable housing being built.
Can you tell us a bit more about specific targets in the plan, and if they are being met, and what are the key lessons learned that you can share with the other deputy mayors and the audience today? Yeah, I mean, on climate change, the national building regulations that we have that apply across the United Kingdom, there is a certain level that you have to meet in any housing development. We went further in London. I think that's the important thing about cities, the fact that they can be in the vanguard of change and actually influence what national policy is. So we, in the latest London plan, in the 2021 document, we included a further 35% reduction beyond what the national requirement was. And actually, the sector's actually gone further. We're now achieving 55%. Reduction, and then whatever's not achieved on site, there has to be off-site payments, the payments in kind that are then used elsewhere to offset the balance in other developments, sort of paying for further insulation or whatever in existing properties, for example. So that's had great results. On housing, though, we are building more housing, or have in recent years built more housing than we have in decades. And achieved record levels of affordable housing. We introduced an innovative approach to affordable housing by offering a fast-track approach to developers, where if they proffered 35%
genuinely affordable housing, we started describing what was affordable housing. We wouldn't accept 80% of market rent or 80% of market purchase prices. We said the discounts had to be much deeper than that. And we expected high levels of social housing, which could be as much as an 80% discount, only 20% of market rate. And if you just offered that 35%, we wouldn't get into any more detail. We wouldn't assess you afterwards and come back for more, which was very attractive to lenders, to developers, because they said, okay, we know exactly what the tariff is going to be, so here's your 35%. And we saw 2/3 of big applications that came through the city to take that route. And we went from about 20% affordable housing on average across the city to in excess of 40% in developments that big enough that were warranted coming to City Hall, not just at the borough level. But there is a but, and that's that it gets harder and harder in the current economic climate to keep delivering at those levels.
Totally, and I particularly like the fast track for developers, probably one idea that would have been a wonderful fit as well for the previous session on collaboration with the private sector. Thank you for this. I would like to go to Paola now, representing the European Commission. The EU has now a new mandate to address this crucial topic of delivering affordable housing. What are the European institutions doing?
Well, mandate, I don't think it's a mandate. Yeah, you know that we do not have competence. The European Union has no competence in housing, in affordable housing, because for sustainable housing we do, and we did huge amount of things. Just for information, during the last, from 21 to 27, the European Union spent about between 30 and 40 billion euros to sustain and to help not affordable, but sustainable housing. As for the affordability, the President, during her investiture, said that if affordability is a problem for Europeans, it's a problem for Europe. That's why she started really a big wave of working. So now the first thing we are doing is that she set up a task force on affordable housing. I'm part of it. It's new, we're just becoming, we are brainstorming, we are in listening mode. That's why it's very important for me today to be here, because I've listened to you. We are listening to you, to the needs, to what is needed, to what we need to do, which are the obstacles, which are the best practices. We are now, there is a call for evidence which is open. I invite you to go and look on our site to respond to this call for evidence. There will be a public consultation very soon. I invite you again, please, to respond to this public consultation. There will be dedicated workshops that we are going to set up with stakeholders in order to learn from you what is needed, what do we need to do, where we do need to go. So, and then there is a project group with commissioners which are regrouping and trying to steer the work which is done across the whole European Union. We are paying huge amount of money across different programs, structural funds, different programs, city missions, but they are not homogeneously regrouped. So what we're trying to do is just to have an elevator view, to see what we're doing, to see what is need to be done, and to work. So to join up sustainability and affordability, which is possible. I think we really think it's possible. There are lots of things that I could do, but I think I have 4 minutes. I will stop here. What I really would like to say is that I am totally available. Our task force is new. We are setting up all our different roles. So please reach out to me, reach out to us. We need your input. We need your help. And we are really now in a listening mode. We will deliver a plan, an action plan by 2026, together with the NEB, which is one of the next questions I'll be certainly replying to. So we have the time, and it's really now the time for you to come to us and talk to us. And I praise the work of many of you. I've heard about Lisbon, Carlos Moedas is one of our great allies, but Palermo I was really surprised to hear what many of you are doing, and I really would be happy to listen more from Paris, to read many. It was a very inspiring amount of people that you put together today, and I really thank you for doing that. It was incredible. And thank you for all of you for resisting until now. You really are the strong one, so thank you for being here.
Indeed they are. Yeah. Going back to you. Paola, thank you. It's very important for us that you consider these 4 hours interesting for you and for your work. Indeed, the task force is very new. And let me tell you a small anecdote. I'm originally from Barcelona, and there were colleagues yesterday asking, why is the city of Barcelona not here with all the other cities? And the reason is because the task force has organized their first study visit to Barcelona this week. So it's because of you that they are not.
So it's my fault. No. I will check with which my colleague is the guilty one.
There was the member of the European Parliament, Irene Tinagli, with several members of the European Parliament as well, representing the task force meeting with Mayor Collboni in Barcelona.
Just a slight difference. The Parliament has a temporary house committee, which is Mrs. Tinagli. And Mrs. Tinagli is doing an incredible job in checking, controlling, pushing the Commission, European Commission. So there are two parallel strands of work. European Parliament, the House Committee, which has a mandate of 1 year, and the European Commission with a task force, which is led by the Commissioner Jorgensen. So we are working together in order to try to streamline the work. So this time is the Parliament's fault. So it's not the
Thank you. So thanks for clarifying that it was not your fault this time. Actually, I was in Brussels 2 weeks ago supporting the Mayors for Housing initiative, where the city of Lisbon and another 14 cities are participating. And actually, I wanted to ask you, how do you see the role of cities, like through the Mayors for Housing initiative, in addressing the housing crisis?
Cities are our best allies. We need cities. We are not going to be able to work directly with cities. You know, the European Union works with member states. This is clear. But in this moment, cities are our best instructors. They tell us what they need. They tell us where the blockages are. They tell us where the best practices are. They are going to tell us and to tell us the way, so that we, at our level, with member states, we can work and work with member states in order to direct the work where it really needs to be done. It's clear that we will still interact with regions and with member states. That's our main interlocutors. We are not allowed to. Certain programs do work directly with cities, city missions. Many of you know it. They have a quite substantial budget. But the cities we are working now very, very, very tightly and with the 15 cities, the 40 cities, because that's exactly where the need comes from. We would like to have a meeting very soon with Milano. They were launching, I'll give you an example, a call for best practices. And I told them, why don't you launch a call for bad practices? Also because they're not known. We do not know where the blockages are, the obstacles. And that's only you who can tell us where they are. But the problem is really at the level of the member states. We are in Venice here, but if I go 40 kilometers from Venice, the problem is completely different. So it's very difficult for us, from our perspective, to work individually with cities. But certainly you have a very, very specific role with us in a partnership and telling us what do you think we should be doing. So that's why, again, I repeat the invite. Please reach out to us, and we'll be very, very happy to listen to you. This is the moment.
Thank you very much, Paola. So this is an open invitation for everyone to reach out to the European institutions. This is a crucial moment, I understood from you, and I like the idea of the call for bad practices. Let me go back to Filippa. Filippa, let's go, I'd like to discuss a very particular topic around the housing crisis, which is the need to push for more energy efficiency, and therefore the retrofitting of existing buildings being put central at the city's housing strategy. But particularly for Lisbon, what are the key initiatives that Lisbon is implementing to support the renovation of existing buildings for housing purposes?
So I think I'm going to just broaden a bit the question, because this is obviously one of the things that, as I was saying, is that we are renovating all our public housing stock. And as was here explained by Paola, mainly because also the European funds are very demanding on sustainable housing. It's not for affordable housing. And since we want to do affordable housing, we move forward to a very high sustainable climate agenda. But I do want to broaden a bit the conversation, because it's not just about the buildings themselves. We're mainly doing the retrofitting of the external skin of the building, obviously. But it's also about redesigning the entire neighborhood, because beyond housing, we're also building nurseries, renovating schools, building healthcare centers, building public spaces to also provide, right next to the public housing buildings, to provide a nicer, even climate in the city. So it's really an entire agenda to renovate the city, and not only the building itself. So it's for every euro that we're spending on the housing, we're also spending on everything else. So the habitat is as important as housing. And I think this is a very important thing to broaden a bit the agenda. And if you go to Lisbon, you're going to see construction sites not only on the housing, but on public space, on all these equipments that I'm talking about, also cultural equipment. So we have a lot of theaters. The whole idea that culture has to be a very strong part of the city, and not just the health and education, but also culture. The whole cultural creativity of the city has to be alive. So I think I'm going to broaden a bit the answer by saying not only the detail of the building, but also of the entire habitat surrounding the building. And of course, I think we had a very wonderful word in the morning, was that Vanessa was doing a cyclopic work. And we're also doing a cyclopic work in Lisbon, which after all this, housing, equipment, public space, we're actually rebuilding the entire system to prevent the city from flooding. And this is like a 250 million euro construction. It's the biggest construction that the city has undergoing since the earthquake in the 18th century. So it's like a very big cyclopic construction. And this is also to prevent the entire city from flooding. So I just want to broaden saying that when we want to do a housing agenda, we cannot only focus on the buildings, we have to focus on the entire habitat that supports the buildings. And so I think just to increase a bit of detail to the answer to the question, if you go to Lisbon right now, you're going to see a very big construction site. But hopefully, and it's a very difficult political situation actually, because citizens tend to not really enjoy having a lot of construction upsetting their life. So we have to have a always very positive and very hopeful word. So that, and saying, have patience, you're going to have a very wonderful city after this. At least when the big construction for preventing the floods is over, you're going to have less floods. You're going to have more public space, you're going to have more equipments, and sustainable housing as well. So I think I'm just going to use the opportunity that we've had a call to ask for more, and just to say that we really, if we do have these funds to keep on having this type of ambition, I think the city can be a completely transformed city in 10 years. So I think this was a marvelous idea to have Paola in this panel, because we really are going to ask the European Investment Bank to support cooperatives. We think it's a very big part of this transition period, and I think Lisbon in 10 years is going to be a completely different city. Copenhagen is a very big inspiration, and I think we managed to do that as well. So we can have everyone, a very inclusive city, and not only for some, but for the many. So once again, just to end as I started, the housing agenda is accelerating the climate agenda, and it's not the other way around.
Thank you, Filippa, for this positive note, and also the encouraging words. There are many challenges ahead of us. Actually, I would like to go back to Jules, and in the case of London, we recently learned that the UK government has identified the need for 88 new homes per year, which means that the next is it right?
88,000, yeah.
88,000.
Yeah.
88,000 homes per year in London, which means that in the next 10 years, that would be 880,000, which is unprecedented and a highly ambitious target. So my question to you is, seeing these numbers, What is your strategy for meeting this goal, and particularly when it comes to the land use perspective, so balancing the housing delivery across different types of development?
Yeah, well, we were talking about targets before and about the previous plan, and now we're working on a new plan that we will publish the draft next year. I've always kind of disliked the word targets because I'm happy to have a target. As a former elected politician, I'm happy to accept a target if I have the means to be able to fulfill it. But instead, I think the numbers that we talk about in the London plan, I prefer to think of them as these are the numbers that we're identifying London needs. You know, I'm happy to make them targets with a conversation with the government about funds for transport and funds for other infrastructure to make them happen. And I think the treble problem we have is that although we were building at an unprecedented rate a couple of years ago and really delivering on the current London plan, we were still short of what its number was. Its number then was 52,000, and we were delivering 40,000. And then in the last couple of years, development has really tailed off. And then the third problem now is the government is saying 88,000 a year. So yeah, double what we were building in our best recent years, and many times greater than we are currently building in the current economic circumstances that we're facing. And we have also the problem of when we did the last plan, 52,000 was really what we identified as the available land in London on brownfield and infill sites. So finding more beyond, and the plan has, you have to publish a 10-year number. So that's why my number isn't 88,000 a year for the next few years. It's how do I identify land for 880,000 homes in the next 6 months and put it in that document that we publish next year.
Good luck. Good luck with that, Jules. Last question of the panel. Paola, you have one question? I have one for you. Do you have one as well? Okay. Last question of the panel is for you, Paola, but if you have one question, of course, I'm also happy to accept this. How does the EU Action Plan on Housing aim to balance affordability and sustainability with goals around design, quality, beauty, and social inclusion? I understand the plan will be launched in 2026, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Affordability and sustainability are 2 coins of the same medal. We work now very, very closely with the NEB unit. And NEB, many of you know what the NEB is this movement that the president started a few years ago, and which pillars are inclusiveness, sustainability, beauty. Originally says the motto. We tend to say quality because we think that is more general, more broad. It's a bottom-up exercise. So many of you talked about bottom-up exercise, including citizens and asking citizens what they really need. And this is a movement. It's more than a policy. It's really lenses through which we should see all the policy in the European Commission. So this is the way. These pillars should be included in everything we're going to do from now on. So this is the way we like to link affordability with sustainability. So one cannot prejudge from the other. They really need to work together. The NEB, there will be, and this is more bureaucracy, but the NEB unit will have a communication ready for the exact same time in which we foreseen our plan for 2026. They should be adopted together by the Council, so they should be linking together 2 very, very important policy. That's, I know it's blah, blah, it's talking, but I am here to represent also bureaucracy, so it's indeed something that I need to be speaking about. I'd like to come back to 2 things which are maybe a little bit more concrete. EIB, you said EIB. Well, we as Affordable Task Force unit now, we're trying to set up a platform with EIB through which we hope is going to be also possible to co-finance and finance projects on affordability. So this is something which is very important. It's in the oven, it's doing now, it's been done. So it's not something that I can really talk to you in details now. And the other one, it's a very important step which was taken on the 1st March 2025, which is the mandate that has been given to Commissioner Fitto to double the investments and to try to steer and to make more rational all the investments in regional funds, regional and structural funds, whenever dedicated to housing. So this is now, we are trying to do the experiment. First, Italy is going to be the first one. I'm also desk for Italy with 2 other colleagues. So we're trying to put together the different services in the European Commission, DG Regio and many other DGs, try to see how we can really force the European Commission to make more rational use of the structural funds if dedicated to funding and to housing, because we know that there is an engagement to double this funding if it will be dedicated to affordable housing. So steps, practical, technical steps are taken besides the bureaucracy, blah, blah. But I think we are really going together, and the 2 things, the President, Ursula von der Leyen, really wants one to go with the other. So we will not be able to go ahead with one without really taking into account all the steps that already have been taken on sustainability.
Thank you so much. This is really encouraging. Before we conclude, let me take 30 seconds just to sum up the great ideas that I have heard from you in these 45 minutes. The need to talk about housing, but also habitat. That there is no need to compromise between sustainability and affordability of housing, that the EU institutions are ready to engage, that this is the right moment to do so on this challenging topic, and that environment and housing targets, or no targets, are really enriching each other. Thank you very much to the 3 panelists, to our brave audience. We conclude the last panel of today. I would like to invite the panelists to leave the stage. And I'll take... Let me just take 1 minute again to thank you, starting with the audience, particularly those of you that arrived at 10 a.m. today. You've been great. You've been great. We really hope, on behalf of C40 cities, that you have found all the contents that the cities represented today, the experts and professionals represented today, have kindly shared with us. Probably we should have started with this, but let me use 2 sentences in case someone in the audience doesn't know what C40 is. That's good, we're wrapping up 4 hours of an event. But just in case, C40 Cities is a global network of cities. Anyhow, yeah, sorry, forgot. Now, yes, me. That's me. Obviously, no, not Carlo Ratti. I think that you have learned that already. As I was saying, C40 Cities is a global network of cities. We currently work with 97 cities, but we have strong links with many more, as you have seen from the different participation of the cities today. Let me continue with the thank you. No more than 30 seconds, I promise. First of all, I wanted to thank the Biennale for hosting us today. I wanted to thank as well the city of Venice, particularly Assessore De Martin, who has already left us, but he has been hosting us not only today, but also yesterday. To my C40 colleagues that have been doing an excellent job putting together this event today. And finally, again, thanks to you, the audience, for being with us. Have a lovely day. Thank you.